Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism. Today we are receiving a briefing from Kannaland regarding the potential solar power project in the area. We also have the department with us today. And I just want to deal with some admin first. I would like to table an apology from the Minister Mania, from the HOD of DDAT, Mr. Fourie, and from member Makamba Bocha from the EFF. Members, I've muted everyone at the beginning of the meeting just to avoid background noise. If you are presenting or if you would like to raise your hand when we do questions and answers, then you are welcome to unmute yourself and also to put your video on. But for ease of the meeting, if you're not presenting or you're not speaking at the moment, please can we just keep the mics and the videos off. Just a reminder that the meeting is on YouTube and it's being live streamed. And if you have a point of order, can we please keep the chat box free just so we can make sure that any points of order or technical matters are dealt with in the chat box. Okay, members, I'm going to first allow everyone to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to allow for the presenters to introduce themselves, and then I think we can jump straight into the meeting. Okay. Members.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Andrikus van der Westhuizen, a member of the committee.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Morning, Chair. My name is Max Lawrence. I'm the CEO of Anova. Thank you.
Thank you. We're jumping ahead a little bit. I just quickly want to allow for the other members to quickly introduce themselves. I'll come back to you. I see one member and one member left. Honourable Mitchell, are you there? Honourable Mitchell?
Apologies, Chair, I'm here. Morning, everyone.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. Okay, I will now allow for the presenters to introduce themselves. Mr. Stevens.
Chair, will you please just mute everybody?
Okay, I'm just quickly going to mute everyone. Then I'm going to unmute. Then I'm going to unmute quickly again. Okay, so everyone's muted. So Mr. Stevens, unmute yourself quickly, please. Just unmute yourself quickly. Mr. Stevens. Can someone quickly just assist Mr. Stevens with unmuting himself?
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to ask
Mr. Stevens. Okay, you're speaking.
Okay.
Are you guys sitting very close to each other with laptops and so on? Okay, I'm unmuting Mr. Stevens. I know the mayor has unmuted herself there. Let's see. Okay, so Mr. Stevens, you now have to unmute yourself on the mayor's laptop.
Yeah, Chair, can I just...
Yeah, good morning,
Okay, perfect.
Bartman, and as you've said, I'm Reynold Stevens, the MM for Kannaland. I'm having a situation in my office because the mayor is sharing the office with me. I want the mayor to be present in my office. So we said to find two laptops. So I have to put myself on silent, the speakers, and but I'll sort it out. But good morning to you and to all the members of your committee. And the mayor will introduce herself now.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Mayor Barry.
Yeah, I'm Mayor Barry, the Executive Mayor of Kannaland Municipality.
Thank you so much. Are there any other officials also on the line that would like to introduce themselves? I think there's a few from the department.
Good morning, Honourable Chairman. My name is Jan Johnston. I'm from the Western Cape Department of Economic Development and Tourism. And I'm joined by a few of my colleagues. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members. My name is Ajay Trickham. I'm in Joanne's team from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good morning, Chair and honourable members. Heini Nell, also in the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, together with Jay and Joe as Deputy Director of Energy.
Thank you so much. I just want to find out if there's anyone. Oh, Honourable Klejo, I didn't see you there.
Yes, hello, Chairperson. It's Melika Klejo. I'm standing in for member Makamba Poja.
Oh, welcome. It's wonderful having you in this committee meeting today.
Sure.
Okay, who's next? Mr. Ron, I see you and I see you unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's very faint. Is it possible to maybe put the sound up? Mr. Ron?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear a bit better now. The sound is just very, very faint. So when you speak, then we'll just have to listen very carefully. Okay, Mr. Stevens, we're going to jump straight into the presentation. I'm told that you are going to be leading it, and you can always advise if someone else has to jump in. And then afterwards, I'll open up for questions and answers. I'm just going to put my video off as well, just for ease of reference for the connection. Mr. Stevens, you can put the presentation up now as well as unmute. Thanks.
Just one moment, please.
No problem.
Morning, Honourable Chairperson and members of the committee and all the other participants. I saw the document, the presentation on the screen a bit earlier on. So I just want to ask whether it was done on your side, and then I'll be able to see the document and then speak. Yes, I see the document in front of me now. So I'll just have to make the screen a little bit bigger. Just assist me here. Okay. Now, Honourable Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity to Council and to myself to make this presentation. As you know, and the committee members can see, we did forward the executive summary of the project to you. So I will not really go into all the detail that's in the document. There is quite a substantial amount of technical information, and we asked the investor to also be part of the presentation for them, with your permission then, to zoom in on those particular sections that is of a more technical and nature. So it's up to you to decide whether they could make their contributions when we go to those sections. But let me just quickly give a quick overview, which is not necessarily here in the document, but what motivated the municipality to go into such an agreement or venture or potential venture as the proposal by Anova. Now, as you can see in the document, there was a process in 2012 with the municipality, and that is in the document. And an MOU resulted from those discussions for the municipality to be in a position to explore with the investor the particular project, the content of the project, the impact of the project on the community, and the kind of technology that to be used. So when I joined the municipality in 2016 and 17, the investors then continue with the discussions based on the MOU that the council entered into with Anova project. Now, before I jump into the document, I just want to say that Kannaland has been plagued for years with limited financial income. The municipality was in various processes related to administration, and it just got weaker over the years in terms of the sustainability of the finances in particular. So when I joined the municipality, and with my discussions with the mayor, Executive Mayor Mrs. Berry, we highlighted a concern as to how the municipality will be able to recover within the financial recovery plan, because as we realized at that particular point in time, and it was also raised with the HOD for local government in the province, Mr. Paulson, is that we need new business in the municipality. We need new business and new investments that could really make a huge impact on the community, and thereby securing the financial sustainability of the municipality in the longer run. So that is, in short, what motivated us to enter into such an agreement. Now, the committee members obviously will be interested in how we in the municipality have dealt with this, with the process of entering into conversations and entering into potential agreements, and then wanting to accept the proposal from the company at the end of the day. Now, before I go into that, just briefly to state that we've gone into a PPP process with the Anova company, and a lot of work has been done in terms of the feasibility of the project, and a lot of communications and engagements were held with various stakeholders, and they are mentioned within the document, of which the GTEC, which is the unit for PPPs at Treasury, they've engaged with other departments in Treasury. They've also engaged with the Central Energy Fund, with Eskom, with the GBSA, and all of that. Now, so the due diligence of the project was done by transaction advisors that appear on the National Treasury database, and the municipality then procured the services of the transactional advisor, and the advisors then did the due diligence study on the whole project, and then there were also the financial details that also came into play, etc. So when we received the letter of confirmation that there is a preliminary or conditional approval for registration of the PPP, that was last year, and in the document it states somewhere on the first page, the 26th of April.
Mr. Stevens, are you still with us? Mr. Stevens, Honorable Mitchell, I see your hand.
I think you covered me.
Honorables, okay, thank you. Honorable Stevens, if someone from Kannaland can perhaps assist Mr. Stevens, because I think His computer either froze or his audio stopped. Is there anyone else from Kannaland on the line who can hear me and who can assist Mr. Stevens? Or if IT could please contact Mr. Stevens? Siraj, are you on the line? Or Tafsir?
Chairperson, we will sort it out now.
Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. I hear another person speaking. Who is this?
It's Vessel Rabets, the administrator at Kannaland.
Okay.
We've just lost connection. The MM has just lost connection, and we're just trying to recover it.
Okay, no problem. We will wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give us a moment. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
I've switched now seats with the mayor. But Honourable Chairperson, now, so the project then seemed to stall and we couldn't really get some positive replies and responses from the GTEC unit. So earlier this year, I made an intervention to write a letter to the GTEC sort of senior people, and then they, on a very short notice, dispatched their, one of the senior advisors to the municipality the Monday morning. And so when he arrived, he explained, because he wasn't dealing with the project, the other official was dealing with it. And so he was then sent off to Durban, and he came to us in Ladysmith. And then we've had discussions with him first before the investor came in. And he gave us technical input with regards to the procurement in terms of the PPP process. And he was quite serious about what he put to us on the table. And I did not disagree with him concerning the unsolicited bid that we need to follow. But at the same time, the stumbling block that we've had experience with the GTEC unit is that they couldn't finalize their own checks and balances on the various documentation that was given or were given to them. And then we had to follow another avenue by talking directly to the Budget and Infrastructure Office at the National Treasury, which is actually the senior department of the GTEC unit. And so with the assistance of the company, we could then have a meeting, an e-meeting 2 weeks ago on Monday, where we have had discussions with them. And then this whole confusion was cleared up in terms of the PPP and where it stands and whether certain things still need to be done or certain things need to be done in a different way, etc. In short, what came out of that meeting with Mrs. Dorcas, I forgot a surname now, but it's a very short surname. Okay. She then addressed this whole issue, and one of her advisors was also present in the meeting, and investor was also part of the meeting in Nova Scotia. And then they informed us that there are two processes dealing with the procurement of PPPs. And the one is the feasibility study process, which was done 100% by the municipality and the investor, because they cover all the expenditure relating to those studies and the legal firm that was present or taking part in, and the transaction advisors, the program, etc. So then the agreement was and then the second process was the unsolicited bid. Now, I've raised this with the investors and also informed my mayor. We've had several discussions on the matter. And then we also got information from Provincial Treasury in terms of their position with regards of the procurement in terms of the second leg, which is the unsolicited bid. Now, I accepted the advice from Provincial Treasury in terms of exploring the unsolicited bid because of the nature of the project. And so I had to act very swiftly in terms of the procurement of a specialist supply chain legal person, which I think a lot of us in the circles know, it's Advocate Fenter, Helen Fenter, and she is a specialist on procurement. And so I've acquired her services. That was about a week and a half ago. And I asked her to go through all the documentation and give us the exact legal position in terms of the procurement processes that we followed in terms of the feasibility study process with reference to the various pieces of legislation. And then secondly, she also advised me in terms of the unsolicited bid, and she agreed with that process. And she also clarified, which I also know, the role of National Treasury within the PPP process in terms of their views and their comments. But the actual procurement of the service of the GTEC and the final agreements to be signed off with council permission eventually is actually was actually cleared up this whole confusion. And so what we did then, based on the meeting with National Treasury, the e-meeting, is that we provided Mrs. Dorcas Kaya with all the documents, and I must stress, with all the documents that we have, including the studies, including the MOUs, including the procurement of the supply chain specialist, and also her recommendations to the municipality in terms of an audit, which she did on the whole process. So that is now with National Treasury, with the responsible, with the department, and Mrs. Dorcas has given us her not assurance that she will not take long and unnecessarily long, drag out the process, but they will do their due diligence now on the particular project, and based on what their findings will be, they will issue us with views and comments. I've also sent the information to all the same package or bundle of information to Provincial Treasury, to Mr. Savage. I've also sent it to DBSA. We've also sent the documents to, there's another, to COCTA. And I've also sent the full bundle to Mr. Paulsa as the HOD for local government, because they also have an interest in guiding the municipality on their part, besides a Provincial Treasury. I've also said to my staff that they need to provide the committee, the Honourable Chairperson Bartman, with all those information, pieces of information, with the whole bundle, because I do understand the role of the Standing Committee. It's an oversight role. It's to do with a big economic investment. It's to do with investment that has an impact on the province and even on the whole country. So I just want to now, I thank you for allowing me some time to spend on this. The end part of the process will be, and we will forward the documents to you as well, is that we've put the advert in the newspaper. There's a reference to that here on page 1 as well. The advert for a notification of the unsolicited bid process appeared in the newspaper yesterday, in the Burger yesterday, Afrikaans and English version. There is a 32-day period for the advert, and then there's another 32 days thereafter in which we will have to provide the comments and the views that we will have received by then to the National Treasury, to Provincial Treasury, for them to peruse and make their final, or not their final, but their position clear in terms of their own validation of the processes and whether it was done according to the legislation. So at this point in time, as the MM of Kannaland Municipality, I'm quite confident that we are in safe waters with regards to how the process has been unfolding and how we will be dealing with the process as from now until the date where council will then be in the position, the best position, to peruse everything and then give the mandate for us to sign, to enter into the final agreement at that particular stage. Now, Honourable Chairperson, now we in the document itself, there's a reference to living security solutions There's reference to the compact on page 4 in terms of the public PPP partnership with Anova, as well as the other organs of state, which include the state-owned entities, the development finance institutions, and then the society, the donor community, as well as the private sector. And then there's an explanation of the living security framework and this whole reference to the ICT environment and how that could also benefit the community at the end of the day. Now, on page 5, it gives us a design there, and I will not really go into that in particular, but in the 4th line in the presentation, there is a reference to control center, energy manager, plug-in platform, again, the living security products. There's reference to the implications for Garden Route, as well as the whole South Africa, and being a lead project, a pilot project for the whole country, which there is an agreement of, and 4, and then a reference to the ISO. Then a bit lower down in terms of the technology, quite a difficult word to pronounce. Efficacious. I had to look up in the dictionary yesterday by Google to get the correct pronunciation. The thin client technology, it's being there, and then I'll skip there. Then on page 6, there is a reference to the Kannaland usage of electricity. Quite an intricate and difficult graph. It's page 6. So there we have it, and this formed the base information for the company to do their own projections into the energy vault and the, as they call it on page 3, as we can see on the page here, the 25 megawatt plant, photovoltaic power plant, injecting its full capacity into the energy vault for storage and ultimate injection into the evening peak. Now there's an explanation regarding that point 3 in terms of the off-peak energy storage after, I think, between 8 o'clock and then before the next morning, I think it's 6 o'clock, and then put that into the peak hour of the morning, which actually starts at 6 o'clock and ending at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it extracts off-peak energy again into the battery system, and then thereafter the energy is released into the grid. That could benefit the other areas and ESCOM in particular. So, so that is the explanation that is given on page 6 in paragraph 2, just below the whole usage diagram of the municipality. And then on page 7, as was shown on the screen, I've dealt with the 3rd point. So if there's any particular information in terms of the technical environment, I suggest, Honourable Chairperson, that the investor could then also make comments regarding this to save me a little bit of time with my own presentation. If I could take you to Chairperson and the committee members to page 8. Page 8 indicates approximately 30,000 smart network distribution and telecommunications devices installed in the dwellings, allowing for the detailed delivery of power to the end user capable of, and then they give us an explanation of pinpoints there below it. But what is so very wonderful about this project is the fact that it's not only about energy, it's about water solutions, it's about problems that we experience with our sewage plants at the moment. It's gonna take that away for us. It's gonna improve the revenue enhancement of the municipality in terms of the telemetry, in terms of the devices that will be deployed across Kannaland in the distribution networks, and it will give real-time information and real-time solutions to us in terms of the income, in terms of usage of the energy. It's just a sort of mind-boggling, the kind of technology that we will benefit from. And the community, especially the poor community, will also benefit in a big way, because part of the thin client technology solutions and the smart technology is that people will get access to this technology and there will be devices installed in the household attached to the prepaid meters, which will give them the access at a very low cost, and even the children will benefit from the BBC Africa education and other educational sites in terms of, and the students who really want to study and do not have access to that kind of information at the particular point in time. Now, if one looks on page 8, then we'll see that in terms of the rollout of the full energy vault, there is a first focus, and the first focus is on Kannaland. And the first focus will produce a 6, Kannaland is using 6 megawatts of power. That is our demand. And the first phase of it will be a 4 megawatt solar photovoltaic installation. So that is the first phase of Kannaland. And then there is a second phase of it. It will be increased in order to provide the benefits to the whole district with numerous installations. So I am also informed that the district, the Garden District Municipality, the council has also given the green light for a memorandum of understanding with the company for the district to also come into play with regards to their role and functions regarding energy and distribution of energy within the district. Now, so the impact of this, it's very big, and eventually they talk about, I think, and the investors can correct me here, the 25 megawatt that they target, and the amount that will be spent on that one is close to, I think, $50 billion US dollars for such a full plant. Yeah, it is mentioned on page 9 in the A paragraph, just below, highlighting the implementation process of Innovative Energy Vault. So it's there. It shows there. Now, let me at this point in time, Honourable Chairperson, just give information to the committee about the risks for the municipality. Now, the due diligence that was done by the transaction advisors that I refer to, the National Treasury company, the first one didn't see their way. They just couldn't do this kind of work. So we need to go to the others, and luckily one of them was prepared to do the due diligence. Now, in terms of the risk and in terms of what we as the municipality need to come up with, we don't share in the risks. We don't accept any risk. That will be part of that is part of the process at the moment. We do not have to contribute any capital on the part of the municipality, so we don't have to do that. So and that will be in the documents. Another a good advantage for the municipality is that after 25 years, because the contract will be for 25 years, and in the documents it's there. It's the assets will be transferred to the municipality, and it will be up to the municipality to decide how they will run the business, whether they will outsource that or not outsource that, and it will become the asset of the municipality. Then there's various advantages with regards to what we at the moment pay for energy, and what we will pay once the project is secured and up and running. It will be a huge cost saving for the municipality. And so I don't really want to go into all the detail regarding the different kinds of benefits. I've spoken to that, but we all know about the load shedding. We all know about Eskom's capacity to generate and distribute sufficient energy for the whole country. We know about the history. We know, and you in a much better position, know about the challenges that government has in order to provide the whole country with secured and sustainable energy. So, so the energy that will be generated by the plant and the other plants, and I believe there's 120 other similar projects that will run across the country. It will really ease the troubles that we experience at the moment in the country, because it will also save Eskom from taking up loans of billions of rands from outside funders, because these funders are now part of this solution that InnovaSure is also bringing to the table. I've also already talked to the uninterrupted 24-hour secured power supply at affordable price increases. I've spoken to the ICT and the benefits for the community. I've also spoken to the advantages there are for Eskom, number G on the document, and the savings that Eskom probably could get, 8 billion rand investment on best offer. It also speaks to the carbon footprint, about reducing the carbon footprint, which is part of the Kyoto protocols, the climate change protocols. It's very important chairperson, to take note of the jobs that will be created by, or the proposed jobs or envisaged jobs in the construction in relating to these kind of projects. It's estimated at 20,000 of the initial bid of 5 years. And during our talks with the investor, they've indicated to us that this project will create 600 employment opportunities for people living in our community, which is a big plus, because those jobs will be permanent jobs, besides the other jobs that will be created as the construction, when the construction phase is going to start. I will not speak to L&M. Again, there's a reference to at N, which I think is important to highlight, is that we got confirmation from the Development Bank of Southern Africa, DBSA, that they give us a written confirmation that once the supply chain process and everything has been dealt with properly to establish the PPP and to procure the unsolicited bid, they will act as they put in the document at N, as the mandated lead arranger and co-funder. And InnovaSure will effectively arrange to fund the projects, but DBSA will play a vital role within that whole financing process regarding the project. Then at project Q, it speaks again to households or other users buy power on prepaid basis. So I will not really spend much time into that. I will just highlight, Chairperson, at point R, if an option to renew is not exercised by Kanland after 25 years, for a further 10 years, the InnovaSure Energy Security PPP agreement terminates and the assets are transferred to the municipal balance sheet, if not done so already. So I've already spoken to that one. In terms of the insurance of the project, the underwriting of the project at S, also very important for the committee to take note for assurance. All relevant risks and warranties are insured and wrapped by InnovaSure, and reinsurance and underwriters include the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency of the World Bank on an AA+ rated basis. Then T, also in terms of giving all of us assurance and the community, is the reference to the basis of the electricity service delivery of the energy vault installations that have been entered into between InnovaSure and various organizations, underpinned by agreements with various companies and countries, amongst others. The Russian Federation at point T, the Russian Federation, the Republic of China, People's Republic of China, both big partners, who have undertaken to underwrite the technological performance of each of the above-mentioned parts of the InnovaSure Energy Vault, the manufacture, and also provide the funding to the technology suppliers. Then U, I will not speak to that for now, and V, I will not unless the investors want to say something. Now, on page 13 is the more technical stuff. It speaks about the power factor. It speaks about which is in the systems, and what is the most preferred power factor, and how this new technology will really, in its own way, assess, control, redirect, making sure that there's no losses and making sure there is an uninterrupted supply. And there's a PF, a power factor of 0.97. But that is a bit very technical for me, and an engineer will have to really explain all of that. And I think that the investor is in the best position to deal with that power factor, but it deals with how energy gets distributed during the day and how the system can actually is engineered in such a way that in electronic manner it can actually rectify itself in terms of optimal usage and efficiency and effectiveness of it all. Then there is a reference to the tariff shifting now and then on page 15. And and we all know on page 16 how the Eskom tariffs has escalated. It has made it for municipalities very, very difficult to really secure sufficient income. It has really has a big effect on how we do business in the municipality and how the challenges with regards to really doing sustainable services to the community. And in this way, this project will also assist, as already been alluded to. On page 18, there's a reference to intelligent distribution devices, and these state-of-the-art devices on page 18 will allow the whole plant and the delivery of the energy to the community and into the Eskom grid. It will enable that, and making sure that it's cost effective and making sure that it's profitable at the end of the day. It will also allow our industries here, Ladysmith Cheese Factory and the Palmlot, which has now a new owner, a French owner, allow them to expand their businesses in the community. So that will also be an add-on effect. There is a commitment from the investor to really utilize the emerging entrepreneurs and the small and micro entrepreneurs within the rollout of the project. So there's already a good sort of commitment with regards to how the potential 1 billion, 1.2 billion rand will get spent and how the community will benefit it. So you get no application to do it. I put my little glass in there. Yeah. Okay, I'm on. Then, Honourable Chairperson, I'm back online again. Thank you very much. On page 20, there is a reference to, in the middle, incidental savings toward the investment in distribution capacity. It states there that the energy vault protects the substation against peak utilization and will increase the total net capacity by 30% and ensure additional use in off-peak energy distribution and on-peak protection and any energy injection. Quite interesting for me also because I learn a lot through this process as well. So the energy injection that they refer to is the energy injection after the storage of the off-peak energy in the evenings and then during the day, and then inject it into when the demand goes up. I'll skip that. I've already alluded to the Anova Ethan technologies, and it goes through a virtual private network with a high degree of increased encryption and compression at the bottom. And this secure connection will be maintained to uniquely identify the user as well as to ensure privacy of the end user data and to protect the clusters of computers, but also to link this point with the privacy of or the benefits to the households and how households' right to privacy will be protected within this whole process. There's also reference, Chairperson, to the CAPS curriculum that the schools that we all know follow at the moment, and how the children in the community could benefit from music, from the educational content, which is linked to the CAPS curriculum, and other advantages that could enhance the curriculum at household level for these learners. There's also a commitment at the bottom. The final service is to connect on page 32 the Ethan device to a virtual computer, which is then the personal computer of the homeowners where the device has been installed, and that stays with the dwelling for the extent of the service being offered. So I will not go into the operating systems. Then still on page 23, there is a reference to the indigent electrification, water and sanitation. I've already spoken to the benefits in terms of water, the reuse of water, and the reuse of the sewage in terms of recycling and how we can benefit from that in particular. But let me, Chairperson, let me just highlight before I forget, ZOA community. And that was part of what I have discussed with Mr. Paulson right from the start when I arrived here in Kannaland and also with the mayor. We do have a particular challenge in the ZOA community because Eskom is providing electricity to the community, which means that we do not have the income coming from electricity from that particular community. Now, in terms of this project and in terms of the agreements that the PPP will enter into with Eskom, is that, and also the comments that Eskom will give via the process that's now underway, but also their views and comments that they've already given to the investors through their own engagements, is that this project will allow the municipality to really to provide the electricity or the energy to the community of ZOA, which means that we will get the income and Van Wyksdorp is the hamlet in the municipality on the southern part. Now that is the challenge because if one looks at the income, the potential income that we don't get from those communities, they're almost 1/3 of the total households of the residential areas of the towns. And we all know that the farmers, they do get their electricity from Eskom. So in terms of how the agreements will be struck with Eskom, we can actually be in a position to provide the energy ourselves to the community, but also bearing in mind to the first phase of the project is 6 million. We automatically 6 million, and the first phase of the project is 4 million. So megawatts. So we will be able to bring in the excess energy, but that is up to the mathematicians and the engineers to really decide the profitability, the matrix, and with Eskom, how best to do it in order to secure more income for the municipality. So I will not spend more time on page 23, but on page 24, we speak about collection rates. And this technology will enable the municipality to have a 100% collection rate for the electricity, because it will be prepaid. People have access through a banking system to really buy electricity, which they already can do. And there will be micro entrepreneurs deployed within the communities that will also benefit from various activities connected to what's happening in the households in terms of the project. So we will not have that particular, and also the energy that we will, and you will see it in the document here, but I make a commitment, Chairperson, that I will make all the documents available to you, because even you can make your comments on the documents, although it's advertised, but I'm just giving my commitment to you as the committee and members of the standing committee, is that there will be a reduction in the cost that we pay at present to Eskom. It's somewhere in this document, but superficially. So we will give you that information as well, which means that we will be in a position to provide electricity directly to all our residents. Our collection rate will be 100%. We will do it at a cheaper cost, and the cost will enable us to secure a better income for the municipality as it is at present, which links up with my initial point about the long-term sustainability and viability of the municipality as a standalone municipality, and all the challenges and the hiccups that we do experience throughout all these years in the municipality. So, Chairperson, I will not go into detail on page 25. There's an Eskom reference to Eskom and the preferential treatment in tariff. So all these agreements will be done upfront with Eskom. So Eskom will be in a position to know exactly how much energy or electricity we will buy from them, and there will be the financials attached to it. So in terms of Eskom, they will be in a better position also in terms of their own balance sheet, and also in terms of the potential loans that they do not have to all the loans that they do not have to take out. But also to point out that there was another very important point about the tariffs of Eskom, but I forgot. Perhaps it will come back a bit before I end off my part of the presentation. Now, Chairperson, on page 26, there is the particular reference to the public-private partnership plan, a sort of a flow chart there. You see there.
To interrupt you, I'm just looking here, but it seems that I can't see a page 25 or a page 26.
Okay.
The one presentation that I have, now quickly, it only has 24 pages.
Okay. With your permission, is there perhaps some process that I can start by emailing it now if it's going to be?
Yes, if you could email it to Wasima or to Zaida, then we are able to, or Zaida says yes, you can email it to her quickly, and then she can able to put page 25 and 26 up for us as well.
26 to 30. Let's see if I can get the email. Say that. So, Chairperson, I've made arrangements. My PA will.
Okay, so I think you can go on so long, and then Zaida can or Wasima can put it up for us once they've received it in their inbox.
Yeah. So, okay, so, Chairperson, yeah, we will choose some emergency arrangement here. But the structure it's separated in three parts. It's a sort of square. There's the public authority, which we all know what a public authority is in terms of central, regional, or local government. Then there's a middle section, project company, and then the line goes to the right-hand side line of the square. And in that square, there is a structure or a percentage in terms of shareholding, in terms of the lenders, the contractors. So the shareholders is being highlighted as or mentioned as contractor, as operator, and financial investor. So then in the middle, there's the project company, and the project company links with the public authority. So it's the public authority on the left, the middle project management, and then you have the ownership structure on the right. Then there's one scenario, typically it's a 70-90%, and a typically 10 to 30%. So I would want to ask you, Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson, if you could allow the CEO of the company of Anova, perhaps now, to really explain the business and the shareholding of the business, that part of it. And then just to go back into the middle, the project company got the construction contractor and the operating contractor. So they will form the project company, but that's linked with the PPP contract, the public authority, and eventually the business unit that will be responsible for the PPP and driving the PPP and the business of the PPP. Now, it mentions we are done with that of GBSA and the mandated lead arranger, because that is part of the structure and their involvement in bringing us to the point where we are before we actually kick off and implement the business model. Point 2 refers to the management plan. And because you are in a disadvantaged position, I will just read very quickly the management plan. The contract management plan will be further elaborated once the project funding has been finalized by the transaction advisor and Anova in conjunction with the Development Bank of Southern Africa as the mandated lead arranger describes. And then they give us 4 bullets. The first one speaks to the composition and responsibilities of the contract management unit within the Kannaland municipality. So this unit, the contract management unit, will be inside the municipality, which means it will be a unit comprising of employees and perhaps a technical advisor that we could procure the service of if necessary to be part of that. Now, that unit, the procedures, bullet point number 2, procedures for dealing with contractual events in the various stages of the implementation of the PPP project. So this committee, which is the contract management section, will deal with also with supervising and monitoring the procedures for dealing with contractual events in the various stages of the implementation of the PPP project. Then third bullet, the performance criteria, monitoring system, and other deliverables liables under the PPP agreement, the proposed PPP agreement, and procedures for reporting and disclosure of PPP performance to the Kannaland municipality, government, and stakeholders. So this body or structure is very important, and also the fact that it's a unit that will be, it's within the Kannaland municipality to protect, in my view, the responsibility and accountability that council must exercise over the project. Then number 3 refers to performance monitoring. It says that Kannaland's PPP management unit, the committee, will carry out performance monitoring as its most important monthly task. So that will be part of our monthly reporting that we do, which is very important. The contract management unit will receive and review periodic, monthly, or quarterly performance reports submitted by Anova and the independent engineer. In addition, it will conduct scheduled and random inspections to identify performance shortfalls. The contract management unit will also seek feedback from end users in the municipality as part of its monitoring responsibility. So all these points or processes and structures will be written up. And I will make sure at the end of the day that once we reach that point of the final stage, before we go to council, that these commitments have been properly discussed, thrashed out, and that council gets the full picture when council will have to exercise their right. Then fourth, there is changes, variations, and amendments. And then there's a reference to, due to the long duration of the Anova Kannaland Energy Vault PPP agreement, because this comes now from already 2018. Let me just get my bearings. Changes may be needed to address a change in circumstances, because we all know it changes, and sometimes the technology that we utilize also change or adjust. For example, new technologies may emerge that justify changes of service specifications or data on which the project is designed may prove inaccurate. So these things which relate to changes, variation, and amendments, there should be proper processes dealing with that. And that is also to mitigate the risk, as we are all aware of. That is so important for us, especially in municipalities. Then there's a reference chairperson to the PPP agreement provides for mechanisms to address such needed changes, in particular variations procedure, also known as a change procedure, for minor changes to be made and agreed by Kannaland and Anova. So it's very important to take note that whatever changes, variations, and amendments happen, it must happen with the approval of the municipality as well. And then changes that do not fall within the variations procedure or which require more fundamental changes to the contract which will require renegotiation, very important, renegotiation, also have a special regime specified in the PPP agreement. And I must just, Honourable Chairperson, take you and the committee again to what I said earlier on with the procurement of the specialist procurement advocate, that her role for the municipality, because she is contacted by the municipality, is to make absolutely sure that in terms of all the performance monitoring, the changes, the variations, the amendments, and changes and variations that demand renegotiations, that it is properly written up in the proposed final documents. So I will make 100% clear about that one as well. Then there's a reference to the Kanlan PPP contract manager, which in this case is the municipal manager. It might not be me, it could be some other people also in the future, will assess not some other, but other municipal managers that council will be appointed, because we know that this project is for 25 years. And by then I will be, I think, almost 80 years old. Yes, I will be, I will be almost 80. Then I'll be at home. So if not in a retirement village or home. Will assess the variation or renegotiating proposal and undertakes the required steps to obtain approval in the terms of either the PPP agreement or the prescribed procedure by it. So these things are absolutely essential, and that's why I want to stress and also want to make a plea through you, Honourable Chairperson Bartman, that Provincial Treasury should actually, when they receive all these documents at the appropriate time, really have a hawk's eye at this proposed contract and making sure that whatever we have to do in order to protect the interests of the municipality, that all of us, in terms of being public authorities, get on board and making sure of that and giving the assurance to our community. So the renegotiations on page 28, in particular, will be managed in a strategic and transparent manner to prevent abuses and ensure buy-in from the key stakeholders. Once again, it will not be a position driven in isolation. The municipality or the reference to the contract manager, the PPP contract manager, which is the MM, will consult with other stakeholders as well, especially those that's end users that benefit from it, like the local industry, for example. Then there's a reference to payment adjustments. I will not go into that really for now, but there is a process with that. For example, there's a regime for availability payment or tariff increases over time, and also provide, because we will have to timeline that with our IDP and our budget process as well. And the impact it could have and the risk borne that it could have on the municipality. So we must really be very, very strict in terms of how we deal with these tariffs and how we reach an agreement concerning those tariffs. And those tariffs need also to be, because in the financial modeling of the company, in terms of their due diligence report, it covers the whole period, which means that the municipality has got access to the proposed income, but also to the proposed tariffs that will generate the income. So we will be able, through our negotiations, to have a base from where we could work from, and also real life experience as we implement the project, which we hope we could do at the end of the day. Then there is refinancing, or sorry, Chair, there's a point 6, compensation and relief events. So that is also self-explanatory. I've spoken about the risk, etc. I've spoken to the regime to protect the private party from the impact.
Stephen, sorry, I want to interrupt you quickly. Because some of the things that you're also speaking about are very technical and we haven't received the rest of the pages yet, can I ask that the input you've indicated that the partner Anova would like to speak about, that we perhaps allow them to continue with that, and then once we have received the email with the rest of the pages, then I will be able to then say, okay, let's go forward with that. It's just because you're speaking about a lot of technical details, and I would like the members and the public watching to be able to see what the specific technicalities are as well.
Now, I agree with your chairperson. I agree with that. So it will just give me some brief time to really speed up this process with regards to sending off the information, because my peer has left and I just have to make some emergency arrangement now. So I'm in your hands now, chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's the next person? The representative will be speaking.
Chairperson, Mr. Max Lawrence is the CEO of the company, as well as Mr. Jaku has got a Swiss surname. I always struggle to say is De La Riviere or something like similar to that. But the two of them will be in the best position to speak to all of these technical issues, chairperson. Thank you very much. And if you need me to speak more, then you're welcome to say so at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I would advise that while Mr. Lawrence is on, if they don't have documentation to put up, then perhaps you can use the platform to perhaps share the document on your computer or on the mayor's computer with us. That might even go a little bit faster than emailing and so on. But Mr. Lawrence, in the meantime, I hand over to you. I'm going to put my mic and my camera back off just for technicalities and the connection.
Honourable Chairperson, Mr. Stevens, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I have to say, I think Mr. Stevens has taken us through the full presentation pretty much from A to Z. I think he was on the second last page of the document that he produced and put up before he ended. So I really think that the process that he has discussed and gone through and described is very indicative, and has certainly given a good summary of what it is that we as Anova on the private company side of this proposed public-private partnership would intend to implement in Kanaland itself, and indeed then further into the Garden Route district and further into South Africa as he described. What I'd like to check though is our Chairman and Chief Engineer, Mr. Jaco de la Riviere, is also on this call. He's experiencing power problems in George, where he is sitting. So if I may, I would like him to request him to first do a roundup, specifically with regard to the response on Mr. Stevens' presentation. And then after that, we will certainly be available, as would I, for any questions that you may have with regard to that. So if I may, Honourable Chairperson, I would just like to request Mr. de la Riviere to come onto the call to do that.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. You may continue.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that I'm experiencing power problems. I'm talking through 3G, and if I lose the connection, I'll try and reconnect, but there's a possibility that that might happen.
Would you like
I think Mr. Stevens has done a good job. I'll do that.
Would it be easier for you if you put the video off and simply speak to us through your mic?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll do that.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Stevens has done a good job, I think. We've been engaging for a long period of time, and I think a lot of the more technical issues are sunk in to Mr. Stevens. We internalize the more important issues. But I think what I'll do is I'll just give a brief summary of the base technologies that we are going to implement. A lot of this technology was created over the last 25 years. And in fact, the thin client technologies that we distribute through the smart meters was developed in the later 90s. And in fact, there was a listing done on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange based on these technologies that we now freely bring back into the public domain. I think we were a bit early in 1999 and 1998 to try and do the distribution into the public just purely because the people and the demand for technology at the time wasn't as much as accepted at this stage in time. I think COVID-19 has brought another demand to the table, which we have actually anticipated a long time ago and which is already built into the system, and that's to bring a much reduced technological cost back to the end user. The whole basis of the thin client technologies was to reduce the cost of information technology, not only in the capital base, but also in the OPEX of operating that over a period of time. So the whole fundamental basis of that deployment is based on trying to reduce the end user cost. And if you think about what the real expenditure is at the moment in South Africa, and we've tested this in Soweto, is people's demand for technology, for data, for telecommunications, for communication, for education, is very much centered around technology that is very expensive. And I think it's been over expensive for a very long period of time. Just the mere fact that the PC is in existence is a costly exercise, and we'd reduce that by taking that back to a server environment and connecting that to the thin client environment. It makes it incredibly powerful, but it also makes it incredibly cheap. We do not, and we level the playing fields on all levels of society. We do not charge different structures for the higher income groups, and we make the technology available down to the shacks. We've got that capability within our submissions. If there's no cross-subsidizing going on, everybody can stand on their own 2 feet and it works. We've really made it a very cheap way of getting into a very high-end technology base. These presentations that we've done, even in Germany, has attracted a lot of interest, even from the Europeans' perspective, because of the massive savings and the high-end technology base. So I think from public participative value add that we've got, and I think that's where most of the attraction from most of the municipalities that we've done presentations to has come from, is extreme. It's extreme in its capability to deal with what we're currently experiencing, not because it was designed for that, because it was just inherently designed to reduce the cost and to create connectivity between people on a very intelligent basis. The energy and the water is obviously the basis of the submissions that we've done to the municipalities. And those submissions are very much focused on security. Water security is becoming, I think, a word that people now use, but we've been busy with that for 25 years. In fact, the current accepted water process that was approved by government in the middle of last year was drafted by one of the Anova engineers. So, we're very, very au fait with what needs to be done. We understand the risks as far as quality of water is concerned, and obviously sanitation as well, and the cost thereof, and then very importantly that of energy, and the impact that unavailability of energy has got to the economy is also something that we're very, very, very well afraid with and understand very well. So when we started developing this system a long time ago, 10 years ago, the question was really at a lower tariff base is how to fund it. How can you successfully fund such a large capital investment, and how can you do it in such a way that you don't encumber the municipalities in any way? And the only way to get that done is to really reduce costs of end users and to bring a lot of other very attractive technologies to the distribution. We've achieved that in a very big way, but we've also achieved that cumulatively back to the utility provider and looking at RSA Incorporated, South Africa Incorporated, and our protection of our assets and the protection of our capital base, in which is the distribution network the major player. And how can we increase the capacity? And these were conversations that were held with National Treasury over the last 7 years, and National Treasury experienced issues related to requests from municipalities and the upgrade to capacity of distribution networks. And our implementation from a value-added perspective, without spending any further capital, increased the capacity of the distribution network by 30%. So A lot of these incidental savings then started making a lot of sense because we started having discussions with Eskom, for instance. And if you have a cumulative understanding of what we do with shifting energy during the off-peak periods and onto on-peak demands, that increases the capital efficiency of Eskom by 30%, given that we can implement 120 of these sites. And those calculations, when we started discussing these with Eskom and with the IPP officers, for instance, made a lot of sense because you're now spending capital on exactly where you're supposed to spend it, not on trying to just address one issue within the value chain. And that the capital efficiency increases for Eskom is worth 380 billion, and the cumulative behavioral change that we've got with collecting payments in a very secure manner, ensuring that payment onto a PPP and onto a PPA back to Eskom, and putting that as value back on the balance sheet, obviously has got a profound impact on the way that you look at Eskom and the value chain, and also the relationship between National Treasury and Eskom in the guarantees to the creditors. And those kinds of submissions have been made to the Minister of Finance and to the Deputy Minister of Finance directly last year in December. The proposals have been accepted and will roll out in the future if we can get these projects done over a larger base. And it's very well understood that that will have a profound impact on where we're going to take the way that Eskom is funded. Eskom was funded through corporate debt, which I don't think was a good idea, but if you refund it through the sale of future earnings on power purchase agreements through the municipalities, which doesn't exist at this stage in time, then that's the way most utility providers in the world were funding their new capital projects. And that's a mindset change, but it's something that has been done internationally. I've been involved with many of those things, and structuring this specific relationship onto that kind of value-added cumulative changes is also very attractive. By far, the biggest incidental value is obviously looking at the efficiency of using energy, and this is what we spend a lot of time and effort and technology on, is trying to make sure that we get the efficiency of using energy in another manner to the maximum extent. And that obviously is the greenest way that you can possibly look at energy. You're not generating any further energy, you're also not doing anything other than what you're currently doing, you're just doing it very efficiently. And that's got a profound impact on the way that we look at the world, because if you can use what you've currently got and you just use it more intelligently and more efficiently, then that is surely the largest impact from a green perspective that you can have on your CO2 footprint. We've also spoken to, and Mr. Reynolds has made comment to that, and we took it very seriously, looking at the responsibility of the municipalities, which was delegated back from the central government to look at the CO2 footprints. And if we focus the cogeneration and photovoltaics onto the evening peak, that's by far the biggest profound impact that you can make in South Africa's current situation. You can find that the tariff parity difference between on-peak and off-peak energy is obviously where the real benefit lies. And if we can co-generate and then focus that energy on the evening peak, you're really attacking energy being generated currently by diesel. And that impact is obviously much bigger. From a financial perspective, it's enormous. You injecting 26 cents of energy against 5.80, it makes a profound impact for the country rather than just for the municipal area. But I think that's the whole idea, is the Anova Volt program, although implemented in Kanaland first, was actually a design and implementation based on what we anticipate the country would need. I think you're going to stop me talking now.
Yes, Mr. Jaco, I forgot your surname. I just wanted to ask you to wrap up quickly, because I also want to quickly find out if we can provide some assistance to the municipality regarding the presentation.
Thank you very much. I think I've said what I needed to say, and I think I've addressed the issues that Mr. Reynolds wanted me to do. And we're just very keen to get going with the project. And thank you very much for the platform.
Thank you for your input. Mr. Stevens, can we assist you with those last few pages? Can I talk you through how to share a presentation on MS Team? If you have it on your laptop, then you can share it. I see Mr. Ron wants to speak. Yes.
Current electricity is off in Catalan due to strong winds. We're busy reinstalling.
Mr. Ron, your sound is very soft. I can hardly hear you. I heard something about a strong wind in Kanaland, but that was more or less it.
Yeah, let me try again. Our electricity is off currently, so we're trying to reconnect Mr. Stevens.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Honourable Chairperson, perhaps I could help.
Yes.
The last few pages that Mr. Stevens is referring to is actually the municipal management plan, which is a separate document to the one that was produced for this meeting. And that could possibly be why the pages that he mentioned are not included. So that specific PPP management plan document is also one of the documents that is in the package and that he's trying to send you. And that is the internal way in which the municipality, upon the advice of their own internal advisor, Advocate Fenter, have prepared as to how they will be managing the process of the public-private partnership. So it's very technical, it's very legal, with a lot of legal terms in it, and it's also a repeat of what is in the draft public-private partnership itself. So I don't think it would be something that is really necessary other than what Mr. Reynolds has currently gone through on the process to discuss in this particular forum, because it's a post-public-private partnership and unsolicited bid approval process that will be implemented by the municipality and checked by the transaction advisors and by whoever else is involved in the process. I don't know if that helps for the interim.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds, you had your hand up. Mr. Stevens, sorry. Okay. Okay. I think in the meantime, thank you for that, Wasima. See that the photo is up there. Perfect. Yes, so we have, I know Mr. Stevens has spoken to this page already.
Perhaps I could help once again, Honourable Chairperson, whilst Mr. Stevens is trying to get audio back.
I think let's rather go to questions and answers, and then by the time that we are able to have the presentation, we can ask either Wasima or Zahira to put it up. Alternatively, we'll just have to email it to everyone and then put it up on our website afterwards, just so that we can save some time as well. Members, I'm going to take hands now, just so that we can get through things in a speediest manner. So I'm just going to mute everyone quickly before I take hands. Okay, any members, hands? Going once. Honourable van der Westhuizen. Anyone else? Going twice. Okay, Honourable Westhuizen, you can start.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you very much for the presentation. I must say it's so nice to hear the excitement, to hear the embracement of new technology, and also then to hear from Kanaland that they are willing to really act as the pilot for what in my book seemed to be quite an ambitious project. I just have a few questions, and I do hope that there will be more than one round for questions. The first one is, who are the owners of Anova? Secondly, why was Kannaland chosen? I can imagine Kannaland has got good solar energy potential, etc. But on the other hand, Kannaland is also an area with vast distances and so on, where the distribution of electricity could be, to my mind, be quite costly. Then thirdly, what are your current regulatory obstacles that you are experiencing? And then why did you choose to cover the whole range of electricity supply? If you just first said, listen, we are concentrating on generation and storage, I would have feel a little bit more comfortable. But it seems to me you want to go from the generation, storage, distribution, sales, the whole infrastructure. And that leads me to my next question. I presume that a project of this nature and size will be a phased project. Now, will you be taking over the existing electrical infrastructure of the municipality? And if so, at what stage and to what extent? And then, Chair, before you stop me, perhaps I must just, then my last question for now, in terms of your discussions with Eskom, have they committed to any transfers of the infrastructure in Zoar and environments? Chair, I will be led by you. Would you like me to first stop and give other members a chance as well? Because I do have some more questions.
If you're willing to, I'm quickly going to take another hand, and then I will come back to you then, Honourable van der Westhuizen, and just so we can give some more members a chance to ask questions. Honourable Eichel, you had a hand up?
Yes, Chairperson. Mine is very short. Firstly, I want to understand in terms of the Honourable van der Westhuizen has asked, the ownership status of the company. Who owns this company? Because it is known that, or predominantly so, maybe by fault or default, that we do not comply with the BEE kind of arrangement. Now, who owns this company in terms of BEE status? How can it be able to benefit the people of Kannaland? And secondly, is that's the first thing. How will the community be able to benefit out of this thing? And then what other major projects are they possibly going to pursue to ensure that Kannaland is not only on the map to sell power, but also as well as to generate the community that is grossly disadvantaged and bring them to power. And then the second point that I want to understand from this thing is that the Kannaland municipality is pursuing this juncture of ensuring that we go independent. We promote independent power producers for the whole region and ultimately maybe to assist the province, of which is a very good initiative because under the circumstances around Eskom. But my challenge is, if you go to Kannaland, you would find that their cabling is still there or on the air. They do not have the underground system of ensuring that there is proper cabling and the networking of power, which would not be disturbed by any kind of season, whether it's winter or summer. Now, what I want to understand, what is the municipality? Because the MM is not a representative of the company that is presenting this thing. The MM is a representative of the municipality that is supposed to be talking on behalf of their challenges together with Eskom. I want to understand now, what are they doing to ensure that Eskom is delivering a proper service and not to replace Eskom with an independent power producer, because we know that the challenges they might be politically linked. Because if you check the involvement of independent people and politicians, there is a high possibility of kickbacks that can be able to happen. But I don't want to cast aspersions unnecessarily so. But let me say that I want to understand now that why is the municipality prepared to give an opportunity to an independent power producer more than a national entity called ESCOM, and empower ESCOM to, because I understand that there is a serious shortage of water that might be assisted by the power that is there, because the cutting of power there is a serious challenge. That municipality end up, because there is a serious aquifer that is there in Kanaland. They can be able to have lots of water for generations to come, but they cannot be able to produce water now because of energy challenges. So what I want to understand is that what are they doing to be able to strengthen both ESCOM and as well as the independent power producer? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Klego. I'm going to take Honorable Kondlo's hand, and then I'm going to ask that we do another round later with Honorable van der Westhuizen starting, because he indicated he had some more questions. Honorable Kondlo.
No, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the presenters. Chair, I've got two questions at this point. One is that I would like to get an understanding of the current liquidity situation of the municipality. And for me, I'm asking this question because if we talk about this type of project, the type of investment it requires, obviously, amongst others, what becomes important is the financial position of the municipality. So I'm interested to understand as we speak, and I'm sure compounded now by the COVID impact onto the municipality and many, not only Kanaland, municipalities in general and government in general. What is the current liquidity ratio and position of the municipality? And in that regard, how is the municipality viewing its ability from a financial point of view to carry this particular project? That's my first question. My second one, Chair, is around the PPP model. I think I'm covered by Member Klego. I think on the issues of, beneficiation, I'm covered there. My interest about the current PPP, I'm aware, I think from the presentation we got from the department, from the provincial treasury and the HOD, that there is currently a process with National Treasury to review the current PPP framework. Given what the traditional PPP framework is more about setting the parameters, of the municipality or the government entity versus the private sector participation, which is always about what becomes the value addition of the private partner. So I'm trying to understand as we speak with this particular project, and I would be assuming, and please indulge me, if already, what is the role of both the province and the National Treasury in the putting together of the PPP framework that we are talking about here, that is actually going to be carrying this a type of a project, especially, I think, linked to the question about what then becomes community involvement. And when we speak about this project, what exactly is the period or the phase? I might have missed that. What is the phase of this PPP project that Kanaland is going to be indulging in through this initiative of the electricity generation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nkondlo. I'm going to allow for those first, and I'm going to keep my questions for the second round as well. MM and Mayor, you can please let us know who and when and how for questions and so on. You can divide it amongst yourselves.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the questions. I will just want to make a recommendation to you is that the two representatives from the company, that they do also answer all these questions. Some of the questions I will answer, but I think amongst the three of us, we will have to answer these questions. I can elaborate on the first question in terms of who are the owners of Anova, but I think that they're in the best position to explain that to you. I can also make contributions to the second question in terms why Kannaland was chosen, but I think there's a two-legged part to this answer, is that the company also need to give us their views in terms of how did it come that they arrive at Kannaland. If I could, because we're not together in physical form, so we will have to, with your permission, obviously, Honourable Chairperson. Then the current regulatory options, that I will leave for Anova to answer. Then why the whole range? That question, I think it's technical. We will give it to Anova, but they can also, I can also make additions if necessary. The fifth question relates to the phased-in process of it. The sixth question speaks to electricity infrastructure. I think that the Anova representatives could really speak to this, but I can also give a particular view on this one after they have spoken. And then the one on the Eskom, the ZOA issue. Now, and about the electricity infrastructure, etc., etc. Now, so if, with your permission, if we could give Anova the opportunity to give their responses, and then I will add, or I will deal with those that they wouldn't want to answer. And then, once again, with your permission, Honourable Chairperson, if we then proceed to the second round of questions, and then we deal with it in the same manner, giving me time to just briefly state who's going to answer what and how we're going to answer the questions. So I'm in your hands now, Chairperson.
No problem. If there are any follow-ups, the members will let you know. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Can I, Chairperson, address some of those issues Mr. Stevens put on the table?
You're welcome to continue.
Right. There's a whole string of questions that are very, very pertinent, and thank you very much for the structure of the questioning and also the intent of generating those questions. The first gentleman's questions related to the infrastructure, the deployment, the multitude of levels of technology and why it all being done at the same time. And I'm also going to talk to the independent power producers situation and the regulations surrounding that. It is incredibly important, and this is where we spent most of our time on, engaging with NASA, engaging with the Department of Energy, engaging with all the relevant departments in the state, is that we made a conscious decision to rely on the constitutional right of municipalities to generate, distribute, sell, and transmit energy. We never intended to, and still do not intend, to become one of those entities. Anova will not be an independent power producer. We invest onto the balance sheet of the municipality, and we assist the municipality to achieve certain things. We are not an independent power producer. We are not a producer selling energy to the municipality. We supply technology in such a way that we do not encumber the municipality. We also do not take over assets from the municipality. In fact, we supply assets to the municipality. We are there to assist from a financial perspective. We're there to assist from a technological perspective. And we put all these assets onto the balance sheet of the municipality as a de facto result. We will not take over distribution networks. We will invest onto distribution networks to create a stable distribution network, but we will not take over assets from the municipality. That was never the intent of the public-private partnership. I think an intent like that will be frowned upon. I think an intent to create an independent power producers perspective on supplying energy to a municipality is completely flawed. I don't think it can be executed. There's been a lot of attempts in the papers recently talking about the rights from a municipality to buy from an independent power producer. I cannot see that being funded. I cannot see that being executed. It's never been our intent to even promote something like that. So it's completely different. We invest directly in collaboration with the municipality on creating capacity for generation, for management, for intelligent distribution for the municipality, not for an independent perspective. Right? So I think that will answer most of the other questions related to whether we're going to take over assets or do this or do that, and also what is our intent with the technology distribution. The reason why it's such an enormous technology base that we distribute is to make it viable. If you do not do it in that manner, it becomes unviable. There's no way to try and invest onto these technologies if you don't make sure that you can get the maximum 100% efficiency and also benefit back to the end user. There's not enough money in the process to make it work. So we had to add very fancy technologies, and most of the technologies that we added for the end user's benefit was to break the animosity towards non-payments. You know, that was one of the major reasons why we did that, is to bring something to the municipal domain to try and break the relationship or the bad relationship between end users and the municipalities for non-payment. And that specific case was proven in Soweto, where we made presentation to the Soweto people to say, I know you want to have a limit on your expenditure on energy at 150. It's not viable, cannot be executed. But if we reduce your living cost by adding much cheaper telephony, much cheaper communication, much cheaper education and communication, then we save you a significant amount of money. Then the event of paying for energy becomes a secondary event. And that's actually where this thing works like a charm. So a lot of the time that we spent with Mr. Reynolds, with Mr. Stevenson, sorry, is to understand exactly.
Point of order, Chair.
Is to establish.
Sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. De La Rue?
De La Rue,
yes. Sorry, De La Rue. Mr. Klejo has a point of order quickly. Can I just take that quickly?
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. I note in terms of the COVID-19 regulations that we are supposed to observe social distance. And I note there in the picture that the MM and the mayor are sitting shoulder to shoulder next to each other, and then there is no observation of the social distance. What is going on there? Are we going to carry on as if it's business as usual, but we can see that there is no observation. There is a serious violation of the lockdown regulations and in terms of
thank you.
social distance.
Thank you, Honorable Klejo. You are correct. I think perhaps one of the reasons that they were also so close is due to our part as a committee because of the technological challenges that they had earlier. But you are correct, we also have to be an example. Mr. Stevens, is it just possible for, I did see you already moved now, and I know you are wearing a mask during the meeting as well, because you're in the same room, but if we can just make sure that between yourself and Mayor Barry, that there's just enough space so that we can also be role models to those who are watching us on video. And then when or if you are answering questions and so on, perhaps we can just ensure that on your side, the laptop is then moved between the two of you, depending on who needs to speak, if that is okay then. Honorable Klejo, would that be okay for you? Are you happy with that arrangement?
No, I'm not happy at all, but it's fine. Let's continue.
Okay, Honorable Klejo, if you're not happy with the arrangement, what would you like to suggest for us?
No, Chairman, I'm expecting that because this thing is on YouTube, that is where the challenge is.
Yes.
That the whole, it's not just Western Cape that is observing this thing. It's a whole South Africa that is watching that how Western Cape easily contract the disease because of recklessness. And now if public representatives would do such kind of a thing, then we are in a serious trouble. But for progress' sake, let us continue and ensure that we observe social distance going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm quickly going to take Honorable Mitchell's hand as well. I see his is up as well.
No, Chair, I think the Mayor and the MM has they addressed the issue as raised by Honourable Klego. Can I please ask that we continue?
Thank you. Members, I ask that we continue as the situation was addressed. Okay, if no one is responding, I'm assuming it's going to be a yes. Mr. De La Riviere, sorry, I'm struggling with your surname a little bit. I'm hoping I'm saying it correctly. You are welcome to continue.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The structure of the investment directly onto the municipality was the object of most of the thought during the 10-year process. It was obviously initially, when we had a look at the feasibility studies, was very difficult to make ends meet at the time with the tariffs. And as the tariffs increased by 400% over the last 5-6 years, it became more viable. But we also had to then look very carefully at what it is that we can bring to the people of the country that will reduce their living costs. And I think that's the major plus factor for the rollout. It's something that happens by default because it's the structure of the technology that we distribute. And obviously that structure of technology that we distribute makes it possible to create a financial model which is viable, which is the most important portion thereof. So without trying to confuse the issue and doing a multitude of technology distributions throughout the municipality, seemingly confusing people, that wasn't the point. The point was to do a technology distribution in such a manner that it can be financially viable. A lot of thought and investigation has gone through the transactional advisors throughout the years to make sure that that is exactly what we have achieved. And obviously from the municipal perspective, that was one of the most important portions of the original submissions, is that we do not induce a long-term liability in the hands of the municipality. I think I've addressed most of the issues. If there's some more, I will continue. Thank you very much.
No problem. Mr. Stevens, I think the rest of the questions are then for you. Mr. Lawrence, do you have any to answer before we go to Mr. Stevens?
Thank you very much. I think, Honourable Chairperson, I think what Mr. De La Riviere perhaps missed was the questions about Inova and its structure, and specifically with regard to its BEE commitments. From a shareholding point of view, we do have a BEE shareholder by the name of Matthew Sposa, who has a significant percentage in the company. There's a bunch of other diverse shareholders in the company as well. It's registered in South Africa, and it has been in existence for approximately 5 years. It came into existence as a result of many other companies and operations that all merged to provide this particular project to South Africa, specifically through one entity, and to give it one name, which was Anova. So as far as the company itself is concerned, that's our structure, and it's available. We're actually in the process of further structuring in terms of other companies that are involved with the process and the joint venture arrangements with them. But to address specifically on the broad-based Black economic empowerment aspect, our partner is
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Lawrence. Sorry to interrupt you. Honourable Klego, I see your hand. Is that a point of order?
No. No, it's not a point of order, Chairperson, but it's a direct follow-up immediately after the presentation and the response is done.
Okay, Honourable Klego, usually in the Finance Committee, what we do is we were going to wait for all the answers first, and then I'm going to do a second round, and that round is also going to allow for follow-ups. Is that okay with you?
Very much so, Chairperson. It's fine.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I've noted your hand. I'm going to lower it in the meantime. Mr. Lawrence, you're welcome to continue.
Thank you very much. With regard to the question, very important as far as I'm concerned, as to why Kannaland, I need to take it back about 6 or 7 years. At the time, the process was instituted at very many municipalities throughout South Africa. So it wasn't just Kannaland. And that process was specifically to interact with various divisions of government and with municipalities to further investigate the way in which the energy security and the problems being experienced at the time with load shedding, even as far back as 2008, 2009. So in most provinces and in a number of municipalities, we instituted and entered into similar arrangements as we did with Kannaland. And we followed parallel processes in a lot of these municipalities with the input of National Treasury and other departments and Eskom and so forth. And it was just that Kannaland got to the end point of reaching the stage where we received first the non-objection by National Treasury and then the approval by National Treasury for the process that we followed in that municipality, in Kannaland, in November of last year. So we also have processes that are on the go still in many other municipalities where we regularly visit them and have interactions with them. And all of them are also aimed at the way in which the program is instituted in the best way possible, which we received advice a good few years ago would be on the public-private partnership basis. So our intention specifically is to utilize, as Mr. Stevens advised, the Kannaland process as the one in which we went through the full program. It's more than 7 years now since we first engaged. And then from there outwards into the garden route, which, as he correctly advised, are also of the inclination to do similar projects. And we have actually designed the projects for the whole of the garden route district. And then we have interactions after that with various other district and metro municipalities that we've also spent, between 6 and 3 years in interactions in doing this exact same thing. So I hope that addresses the matter of why Kannaland. It's because during the process of going into a program which we need to serve the whole country, this program will only work in tandem with other municipalities, because the requirement by Eskom isn't just the 6 megawatts that we're able to store in Kannaland. It's actually closer to 5,000 megawatts, currently advised by the Department of Energy, starting with 2,000 megawatts immediately, but then building up to a need which is a lot more than that. So Mr. De La Riviere is our chief engineer on the program that has worked with most of the BRICS countries' engineers as well on this final project. Will be able to explain better, if required, exactly how the engineers and the actuaries arrived at the number of energy volts required. But what is important for us is that unless we start with this pilot implementation project in Kannaland and then expand it into the garden route and make it available to other municipalities who have similar problems and require similar answers, unless we are able to do that, we'll only be addressing a very small part of the current problem that we're experiencing on a shortage of generation capacity during peak hours. So hopefully with those 2 answers, I've addressed those questions as to who is Anova and who our shareholders are and what our commitments are towards broad-based black economic empowerment. I can perhaps also just mention that besides our shareholder, minority shareholder in the company, we're also moving towards a 51% black-owned structure within the company, and that's part of the process which we will implement with the Kannaland public-private partnership, because each public-private partnership is implemented as a special purpose vehicle. And the structure that Mr. Stevens had put up earlier was just explaining how that special purpose vehicle to produce the result that we require in Kannaland will be dealt with, and how all of the parties will be included, with representatives from National Treasury, from Eskom, from Kannaland, and from ourselves, so that Anova as a private entity and Kannaland as the public entity can share in the way in which we can purchase off-peak energy from Eskom during the night, save it in the battery at a really low amount, and then make it available in the distribution network of the municipality during peak hours, instead of paying the amount that is required on the megaflex tariffs. So I don't know if Mr. De La Riviere would like to add anything else to these answers that I've added, or Mr. Stevens, but I hope that addresses some of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, do you have anything to add? Mr. Stevens, your mute was off mute and you just muted yourself accidentally. Okay, there you go.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. You may continue.
Yeah, Chairperson, just one thing about Thailand. I think we are so fortunate that we end up with the company for MOU and also for the process that we undertake at present, and that we could benefit from the process. That is what we envisage. There's one of the questions from Honourable Van der Westhuizen deals with the electricity infrastructure and the whether we are going to take that over, etc. I know that Honourable Van der Westhuizen knows that the electricity infrastructure is owned by the municipality, where we provide the service to the community, with the exception of ZOA, which is the ESCOM infrastructure. And I believe that part of the process will inevitably be the negotiations with ESCOM, and they will also be provided the opportunity to peruse all the documentation that I've alluded to, and that's available on our website at the moment. So we will really have to spend time on this one in terms of the ZOA community, because in my view is they provide, it's their infrastructure, etc. So this is a valuable point raised by Anova Van der Westhuizen that we will have to take into the process and making sure that we get the best situation for the municipality within the present proposal of the project. Then, Chairperson, I also want just briefly want to speak to what are the major projects. In my presentation, although it went rather quickly, because I do not want to waste the committee's time, is that there are numerous benefits for the community, for all the members of our community, in terms of the multiplier effect of the investment in an indirect way, and then also in a direct way about the number of job opportunities that will be created, permanent opportunities. It will also give direct opportunities to local entrepreneurs to benefit from the construction as far as they could have the capacity to do so and the expertise. Then the company has already had a meeting with the local emerging business groupings, and we're not excluding mainstream business. When we launched the project or make it public, that was in December a year ago, the role players were all present at that particular meeting. So, and that is reference to the industry leaders, the cheese factories, the people in the wine industry, etc., the local ones, and also people from the farming community. So all of them are very much, I would also say, in love with this project, because they do see the benefit for it, for their own industries and for the people. Then, in particular reference to the community, the meeting with the emerging entrepreneurs, that was a meeting that happened, and there was assurance given to the representatives that were there, quite a number of them, that they would really benefit from the process in a direct manner, and also to speak to it was Honourable Member Angel, if my surname pronunciation is correct, that raised these points about beneficiation for the community and the impact on the lives of disadvantaged people. And from our side here in the municipality, throughout this process that we hope would be successfully concluded at the end of the day, we will make sure that whatever commitments were given to the community, that those commitments get honored, because those will be part and parcel of the eventual agreements that will be concluded. And it will be part of the performance monitoring of the project, as I've also attempt to explain when I started with the pages that you did not receive. So from our side, there is really a firm commitment, and from council side, there is a firm commitment, and also from the executive mayor, that we really need to change the lives of as many people as possible. And this is what this project envisage and will enable us. I also want to, at the same time, to speak to the questions raised by Honourable Kondo. And I also want just to point out that at the start of my presentation, I did indicate the financial situation of the municipality. I know that the Honourable Member has got a specific question dealing with the liquidity ratio, which I will also address at the same time in this answer. But if one looks at the limited income base of the municipality, and also in our MERO reports, which also indicates that indicate that we have low population growth actually in Kannaland. At the moment, it's actually a benefit for us, because if one looks at the amount of investment of a project like this, then, and you work it out according in per capita figures per person in the municipality, then obviously it will really make a huge impact in that sense on each and every resident in our community. And because we do not have a big population or a larger population, it's actually to our benefit at the moment. And also in terms of reducing our unemployment to almost zero if we could. But also to come back to the liquidity ratio, and also that I've alluded to at the start of the presentation, once again referred to, is, Honourable Member Bartman, is that the municipality's limited income base and the projections for the future, and also with COVID-19, the impact thereof, and also with the unemployment and the kind of economy that we have in the country at the moment, and our international ratings agency gradings, it shows that it's quite a long way still for us to really get to a point where we realize that we do have sufficient or enough economic growth in the country. So in terms of what we in Kannaland experience is a very negative scenario in terms of our own income base, projections for the future, the financial sustainability of the municipality. The liquidity ratio, I can't disclose the exact figure now, but it is not a positive figure. It is not a positive ratio at all, and which explains why the municipality are under administration, financial administration at the moment. It also confirms why there have been previous administrations in the municipality and why it's so difficult for the municipality to move out of the situation that we have at the moment. So all in all, in terms of that, Honourable Chairperson, is that this investment provides an opportunity for us in Kannaland, the residents in Kannaland, to really move out of this almost dark hole that we find ourselves in, and take us to a next level. And through my own engagements through our public participation processes with our community, and the mayor and all of us, the councillors, we raised and informed the community about this. But a last point on this one is that this project of Anova, the company, it skips time. It enables us to fast forward, because that is actually our big challenge at the moment in Kannaland, because time is not for us, time is against us. And the only aspect that can change that for us in Kannaland is technology that can catapult us to a next level. And we are quite confident that this project will enable just that for us, so that we can, and to conclude my response to Honourable Mukondo, is that we would be able to have the investment in our area as a new business, but also to change the ratios from being negative to positive. And because that is why we are embarking on this project, and that's why Council is giving support for this project, because the project gives us those indicators that it could be possible for us to turn things around in that way, and also the expansion of local businesses. So that, Honourable Chairperson, that concludes my response on what Honourable Mukondo has referred to. There's also, I think, Honourable Member Klechu pointed out about the community involvement. He also speaks to, and I'm not sure whether it was Honourable Mukondo or Honourable Klechu, speaks to the review of the current PPP framework. As rightfully said by Honourable Mukondo, it's a process that's under review, but we in the municipality have to comply with the existing PPP framework, because that is the valid one at the moment. And the other one, in terms of the inputs that all of us must give as local government, even as Kannaland, as provincial treasury and national treasury, with regards to this review process, it's a challenge that all of us must take up, and that all of us must make sure that at the end of the day, we do have a PPP framework that works for all of us. But also, as a point of assurance to conclude this part, Honourable Chairperson, is why the services of Advocate Venter, specialist advocate on supply chain, has been procured by the municipality, is for her to exactly make sure that we comply with whatever regulations there are, and whatever pieces of legislation and processes we need to adhere to. And lastly, in terms of community involvement, the point that was raised by Honourable Member Klechu is that since the arrival of this project proposal here in Kannaland, we've really informed our communities about it through our own public participation processes. We haven't left a stone unturned to inform our communities in those formal processes that we deal with. We have even included a reference to it in our IDPs, because we also need to make provision for renewable energy, sustainable energy, climate change, and all of that. So this project fits into that strategic environment, and also with reference to the carbon footprint that's going to be reduced. That's also in the document, that it was also alluded to the Kyoto protocols on the climate change, global climate change discussions, etc. So I just wanted Honourable Chairperson to make those comments, and I hope that my comments be favorably received by the members that put the questions via you to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Honourable van der Westhuizen, you indicated previously you had more questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I'm afraid my list of questions are actually increasing. The agenda for today's meeting created the impression with me that there would be a huge solar plant being constructed within the Kannaland municipal area. Today, I've heard very little about the solar part. I've heard about energy vaults, which I presume refers to energy storage capacity, etc. And I'm afraid, and please, it's my limited exposure to the project, but for me, it's almost as if we are playing musical chairs. You know, the one moment it's solar power plant, the next moment it's storage, the next moment it is lowering the cost of living to electricity consumers, and somewhere between all of this, I'm kind of losing the what this project is really all about. The technology to use and buy power at cheap periods during the night, etc., and then to store it. I take it that that technology is fast, developing, but still, to say Kannaland is the one where we got the first approvals from, and therefore we're now going to go to Kannaland. Surely, in an environment that is so technical as electricity, there must be technical reasons as well why Kannaland should be piloting to a large extent this. So please, unless I've missed it, but I didn't hear many technical reasons why Kannaland should be the pilot for such a project. Then secondly, when you speak about smart distribution meters, it seems to me it's not smart consumption meters. Time of use, I know, some farmers can make use of that by recharging forklifts at night, or people can, pump water and irrigate at night when the electricity price is lower, etc. But if you could just tell us a little bit more, how will this impact the consumers then in Kannaland? Then also, what will be the contribution from the side of the municipality? Will Kannaland be contributing land in the form of rental-free land for the vaults, etc.? Chair, I'm afraid. Also, tell us a little bit more about your work in Soweto, because we're at quite a distance from there, but we do know that Eskom has got particular challenges, and you referred to Soweto. Have you been able to make a difference there? Have you been able to sway some part of Soweto, and have your devices, have they been able to make an impact? And then, Chair, after 25 years, it just seems to me, my understanding is that it's a build, operate, transfer. So Anova will be investing. They will be getting something out of this, and I would appreciate it if we could hear a little bit more about, what are the commitments that Kannaland will enter into to obviously make this a viable proposition for Anova. But then after 25 years, if it's such a highly technical field that you are entering into, surely after 25 years, the technology must again be outdated. The chemical storage facilities must be aged, and the infrastructure must be shown some wear and tear. How do we assure that after 25 years, Kannaland is really in a better position than it would have been? Chair, can I perhaps just pause there first? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. Honourable Klego, you had a follow-up?
Thanks, Chairman. The only thing that I wanted to understand in terms of the BEE status, I heard that the presenter was saying that Matthew Posa has got a minority shareholding. Now, I wanted to understand now that does it necessarily qualify to be regarded as a BEE, triple BE kind of arrangement if Posa is a minority shareholder? Because we are in a situation whereby we avoid where there would be fronting of that is utilized of our people, that because we want to qualify for this project, then we will utilize you to be part and parcel of us. We'll give you a certain percentage so that at the end of the day, we qualify that we've got a black person who happens to be a male. We've got a number of female business people that want to do business in the Western Cape, and then they do not get chances. And if you check Matthew's Posa, he's not even from the Western Cape. He's an ANC guru from Mpumalanga. He's got nothing to do with Western Cape. So this thing is a Western Cape project that is aimed at benefiting the people of the Western Cape. I don't have a problem with us saying that we will be able to empower people internally and locally and provincially or otherwise. But I've got a very serious problem with us entertaining people who have got some certain struggle credentials because they are coming from somewhere else, head office or otherwise. It cannot be. Once we have got people internally here that can be able to benefit, because you must check this thing is coming from a rural municipality that we want to empower, whose motives wants to empower the entire province. So for us to interact and entertain politics that are coming from national is a serious challenge. So I'm very much challenged with the issue of Matthew Sposa being regarded as a PE kind of arrangement. It's not. That is called fronting, but it's fine. Let us hear from those people that what exactly are they doing? Are they in interaction with people who know people? Is it a way of having their hands into the cookie jar, or what is going on? So that's what I want to understand. What is happening here? Why would they be able to choose somebody from outside instead of like locally be able to boost business and everything else? Because at the end of the day, we will be definitely compromised with the whole arrangement. I'm not sure who might be giving the directive and instructions, but I very much sense that we are compromised with this whole deal.
Thank you, Honourable Tmoigo. Honourable Nkondlo, and then after Honourable Nkondlo, I'm going to throw my questions in as well.
Chair, for me, it's really a follow-up. One, I think I'm not sure. Maybe the speakers can clarify, because I wanted to check whether the BE partner they're talking about has got any relationship with the local, which is Ghanaland, you know, as the immediate radius of the project, or the Western Cape in general. Maybe they can explain. I'm not sure whether they are referring to the Matthew Posa of the ANC, as Member Kleko is saying. Secondly, is to say, in that context, because I didn't hear what exactly is local content about this particular project. And for me, that is what I'm interested in, is the local content aspects of the project. And I'm in no way, you know, expecting the answers of being told how many jobs people are going to get jobs here, you know, and there and there. I'm interested in the structure of the project. Where is the local content and local participation? So if the MM can at least be explicit about directing us in this particular project, where is that particular element? That's the first one, Chair. And secondly, Chair, you know, maybe you can advise as the chairperson, because I fully appreciate that the partner to the municipality in this context, which is the private sector partner, can be able to explain on technical matters. But this is a project of the municipality, and I would wish to see the municipality speaking to the committee. Because when it comes to governance, Chairperson, we must be very careful, because tomorrow when something happens, I am not sure whether this committee will be calling the private partner to come and account on behalf of the municipality. So I'm saying I want us to ensure balance, because I would want, this is the project of the municipality, and the municipality must be the one that confidently is presenting to us about the project. And I'm leaving that as a comment, because I have seen in most projects, nationally, provincially, municipalities across the country, that when something hits the fan, it becomes a challenge to then get the private sector to come and account to the public on its role. Whilst it is easy now, and I would want to register that point, whilst it is easy now for the private sector to come and speak, eloquently explaining the nature of the project, I would hope that this would be the case when, if anything happens in the implementation of the project, that is not going to only be the municipality that must be put on the firing line, and the private sector partner does not see its particular role, because these are the dynamics of these public-private partnerships that government, over the past couple of years have seen. So I am raising that for me as a concern, and something that I'm saying it is important for me that from an oversight point of view, that is something that I must record. My last point, Chair, is that I am understanding very well from the municipal manager about the tricky or the precarious situation financially of the municipality and the opportunity of this particular project. That I understand fully. All I was interested in is to understand in the now, which I think is linked to Member Van Steen's question, in the now, how then, given this current financial position, how then would the municipality be able to meet its own contribution, which is financial and otherwise, to enable the project? Because in unlocking that particular future investment that is seen, and the council correctly so have seen, as a benefit of resolving the current financial situation of the municipality, has approved that the project continues. That is understandable. But I'm saying, as you do that, you would need to, in the current space, be able to then fulfill particular obligations. So I'm asking that particular question, which the MM has not responded to, is that how then will the municipality, given its current, will they be able then to fulfill whatever obligations that they have? Who will offset, or who will be able to fund those obligations of the municipality in the now to enable the project, so that we don't get a situation once again, because we're also protecting the sovereignty of the municipality as a government, so that it doesn't get itself into a precarious relationship with the private sector, which we have seen in many of these kind of projects, where the municipality is then in a way, funded by a private sector, and therefore its voice in the project gets to be limited. So I want for me to be at least given that specific response and comfort to say the municipality will be able, in the current, in implementing the project, will be able to meet its own financial obligations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Nkondlo. The questions I have, I'm going to start with a comment before I ask my questions. To the municipality specifically, it is, for me specifically, it was very difficult to understand all the information regarding this particular project when we found out, when we are on our local government week, and we were there for water and other local government things in Kanaland during the economic visit. And then we found out by chance in the presentation about this project. And the reason it was so difficult was because currently, or previously, no was being said to municipalities for IPPs in terms of energy. And then we come to Kanaland, and all of a sudden we find out about this triple P that is being allowed. And it's interesting because it seems as if obviously triple Ps can allow for energy and include energy in projects. But the other flip side to it is that triple Ps don't follow the same procedures as IPPs. For example, in IPP, you have to ask the Minister of Energy for permission in terms of procuring the energy and so on. And in terms of triple P, you indicated that you've been working with the Minister of Finance, the Development Bank of South Africa, and so on. So it seems that this particular project falls with the Minister of Finance, but nowhere has the Minister of Energy or his department been mentioned. So I just want to understand what exactly is the role of the Minister of Energy and his department in this project, because it doesn't seem like the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Energy and the municipality perhaps even are in the same WhatsApp group. Because the Finance Minister said, obviously, in the beginning of the year, the municipalities with good standing will be able to procure energy. And I don't want to insult Kannaland, but given that Kannaland is under administration, in my mind, I did not expect Kannaland to have qualified almost as a municipality in good standing. Then, similar to Honourable van der Westhuizen's questions, I just would like some clarity. Is this a solar project or is this a battery storage project? Because the way that it is marketed is a solar project, but based on the detail in the proposal, it seems to be more of a battery storage project. So I would just like to understand that. And then tariffs. How much are the residents currently paying for electricity in Kannaland as well for the Eskom region? And how much would residents pay once this project is implemented, so that we can understand what the benefit is also there. In terms of the music project in schools that was mentioned in the project, music is very important indeed. However, I might suggest that the municipality look into coding and technology for children in schools as well, because given that a lot has been said about how amazing this technology is, one could even use the potential of that amazingness then to teach the children on the ground how to move into and participate in the digital economy. And then I just want to check, Inova said that the BE partner is Matthew Sposer. Is he referring to the previous Treasurer General of the ANC and previous Premier of Mpumalanga? Because I don't want to make assumptions, so I would just like some clarity on that regard, and how specifically Matthew Sposer became interested in Kannaland specifically. And then in finance terms, you mentioned in your proposal that Russia and China is involved. So that's what it was saying in the document. So I just understand, is that with the development of South Africa? Are they involved with Innovation, or are they involved with the municipality? How did they get involved? Thank you for committing to sending the documentation to us. We will be expecting that, and we really do appreciate your working with us in this regard. And then I would just like to find out, ideally, if we say that all the processes and tender procedures go well, the due diligence come back and it's perfect and awesome, then I just want to understand, when exactly will construction commence? Thank you. And I just saw Honourable Klego's hand now again. Honourable Klego, did you have anything else? Is that a point of order?
No, it's not a point of order, Chair, but it's a matter of reference that we, as a committee, we want things to be recorded in terms of the information that we get from this platform. My thing is around the issue of the partners that are involved in the whole assignment, so that we do not find a situation whereby we become extraordinarily compromised with the whole agenda. The idea itself, initially, it is correct. It is aimed at empowering the area with acquiring water and as well as independent energy, which is fine. But now, I'm partly covered by you, Chairperson, because when we talk of energy, we need to have that Department of Energy to be able to give to us some form of confidence that as Energy Department, they are fine with this arrangement, so that we do not agree with things that will come back and haunt us and say that you did not consult a certain department who is a very critical stakeholder of the whole arrangement. Like you said, Chairperson, that the Department of Energy is very much paramount in terms of getting clarity about this whole arrangement, what is going on. We understand what the municipality might be saying. We understand what, as a province, we might be supporting that kind of arrangement. But is the department itself of energy in very same line with us in terms of this whole arrangement? Because if Gwede can be able to come to us and explain to us that why would they be able to support this whole initiative, there's nothing wrong about this initiative. It's a very paramount one that we need, if we can, spread it around the province, that everybody else must follow what Kannaland has done in order for us to have our form of be able to be sustainable. But the challenge is that the department concerned, has it been engaged, and what is the possibility of it coming to us and present this thing? What is going on there? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Klego. Basically, Honourable Klego reiterated some of our previous comments and questions. Mr. Stevens, I'm going to hand over to you now. Please do explain to us, is everyone in the same WhatsApp group?
Honourable Chairperson, okay. Honourable Chairperson, in terms of the points that you raised, I can allude to how the project is structured on the ground in terms of the physical environment, but I will ask Mr. De La Villiers to give a response to that. What I can confirm to Honourable Van der Westhuizen through you, Chairperson, is that there is no land of the municipality that will be used or utilized for this purpose of the project. So it's private land that will be accessed by the investor. So that is the one. Then on the Soweto initiative, the company can give us information there as well. And then Honourable Van der Westhuizen's point about the technology or technologies that might change or vary over time, and whether the asset that will be transferred at the end of the 2050 year would not be in a dilapidated state and sort of no value. That is the worst case scenario. I've spoken to the adjustments, deviations, exceptions when I started with the presentation that you did not receive. But on my part, that the investor will be in the best place to answer that one. Then Honourable Klego's point in terms of BBE rating, if I heard correctly, then Mr. Lawrence did indicate that there's a 51% or envisaged 51% BBE component in the structure, the eventual structure. So perhaps Mr. Lawrence can just confirm that to the committee. But also to point out to you, Chairperson, from our side as the accounting officer of the municipality, I will make it my point to make sure that those issues raised by especially Honourable Klego and Honourable Kondo in terms of the local content and local empowerment, that gets written into, because most of the things relating to the business model and the agreement is draft. So it's a document that we had to submit when we had to apply for a conditional registration as a PPP. But I'm giving my commitment to the committee that I will really make sure that in terms of the BBE rating, in terms of the local content and empowerment, that features in the final document that will be presented to council. Then I also want to answer Honourable Mukondo's question. I think it was Honourable Mukondo, with regards to if any person in the municipality or in the administration or in council has any relations or any links with the BBE partner or BBE partners, that I don't know all of them. I can honestly say to you, Chairperson, that I know the person under this that was mentioned, Mr. Matthew Sposa, just by name. I've never spoken to Mr. Posa. I've never met Mr. Posa in person. So I can honestly say that there's no links of any kind between partners that is at present in the BBE component of the company. And I do also think that I will not have any links with any others that might join at the stage that where we actually want to be in terms of the 51%. Then also in terms of the funds in the now, as Honourable Makondo has indicated, we understand that the municipality's present situation. So that's why we have not spent a single cent of the municipality on any studies whatsoever, any processes relating to whatever is on the table and has been presented in the document form as part of the notice that was in the newspaper yesterday for notification for views and comments from the community and from any other stakeholder. So so we haven't spent any money, not any money on traveling to see anybody, perhaps a telephone call here and there to discuss progress or to have a video conference on the matter. So that is where our obligation or commitments in terms of finances are at the moment. The only one that we have to procure, obviously, is because as was rightfully pointed out by the Honourable Member, is that it is a project of the municipality. The municipality will have to take responsibility and accountability for this project at the end of the day, and my head is on the block. So if I do not do it according to the prescripts, then I might end up where I don't want to be, and all of us don't want to be. So I will make sure that and therefore we had to procure the services of the SAM specialist to make sure, and also to make sure about the points raised in terms of the BBE rating, the local content, local empowerment, that there is exact percentages attached to it. And I also took the point about the whether it's fronting, etc. And we certainly do not support any fronting in the municipality with whoever that we do business with. So that is the commitment that I can give to you in terms of that one. Then also, Honourable Chairperson, you have rightfully raised a lot of points because of being at the disadvantage of not having the information when you came for your oversight visit, and I agree with that. I had to mention it because I was very transparent and I really wanted to inform the committee about this exciting project that we were dealing with here in the municipality. I can just reconfirm my commitment to send the whole bundle of documents to you so that you have it, and the committee members also can have it if you would so decide. But also the advert in the newspaper and the linkages that are on our website covers the whole range of everything that was done up until now. And I am hopeful that the committee members might, even in their capacity as members, might also give their comments and their views on the matter. And then also a very valid point that you've raised and that we have missed perhaps is, has there been any engagements with the Department of Energy? And I think, Chairperson, that the investor is in the best position to confirm their engagements that they've had with the other stakeholders within the public sector domain, and can give you the assurance of their engagements to this extent as well. And then I also want to say about what you have mentioned, Honourable Chairperson, in terms of good standing within quotation marks or abbreviation, I don't know, but the correct punctuation. But I can also say that, yes, it's been very tough in Kannaland in terms of what the municipality has gone through over the years. But also to say to you that we've steadily improved the governance in the municipality. When I arrived here, and I don't want to make a long story of this, but just for information's sake, Honourable Chairperson, is that when I arrived here, we got, for the 15-16 financial year, just before my arrival, we got a disclaimer opinion from the Auditor General. That's the worst that a public institution can get. And then the year thereafter, when I rejoined the municipality in July 2016, And I was here for 6 months, and because of I could only act for 6 months, and the municipality were able to move to skip the adverse opinion and move into the qualified status opinion, and then we improved the audit outcomes for the year thereafter to an unqualified audit opinion with matters or findings. Quite a number of findings. And then the year that ended last year, June, we were very fortunate to maintain the unqualified audit with fewer findings. And we are hopeful and we're working towards getting much less findings, if any, for the year that we are in. It's ending at the end of June. But I take your point about councils or municipalities in good standing. But we are trying very hard with the elected representatives to really improve things here. Then there was a reference made to what we are currently paying for ESCOM. You know, I haven't really prepared myself to give you that nitty-gritty information. But I've asked the CFO to give me some input, and he's on his way here. So when he arrives, he could perhaps give you, the Honourable Chairperson, a reply to that. Then, rightfully you pointed out, because it was in our presentations, the reference to the Russians, the reference to the People's Republic of China, the BRICS, and I think that Mr. De Riviere, as the chairperson of the Inertia Company, he would be in the best position to answer that one, together with the Department of Energy, one that you've raised, and also with how the physical structure of this project will work. I know that there will be a solar panel plant, and then there will be the storage facility, and then there will be a connecting point with the ESCOM grid. So this is how I understand the project, but they will be in a better position to give you that information, together with Mr. Max Loden's response to the BBE component that was raised by Honourable Klehu, and as well as the local content and empowerment, that they could also give their views in it. Because as we are sitting now, we are dealing with the process, and just to reconfirm that it's our idea to strengthen the process and to have a final PPP agreement that surely protects the interest of our residents and protects the interest of council and even myself in the sense of my accountability and responsibility role that I play in the municipality. Perhaps it was a bit of a long story. I tried my utmost to answer, Honourable Chairperson. So I'm back into your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Lawrence, is there any of the answers to questions that you would like to pick up? Is Mr. Lawrence still with us?
Yes, I am still with you. If you don't mind, I would, Honourable Chairperson, I'll deal with the BE question, and then hopefully my colleague will also attend to some of the technical matters as well. As I mentioned earlier, Innovasure as a company is actually a conglomeration of a lot of different companies, groupings, and people. Altogether, there's about 70 engineers that are involved with the way in which the project has unfolded in South Africa. We also have people in Australia, and we also have companies that are on the go in Mozambique and some other neighboring countries to South Africa. So specifically to the BEE, and with regard to Mr. Matthews Poza, indeed, he is the individual mentioned, and his company has been dealing with us for many years in terms of our interaction with Mozambique and Maputo specifically. As some of you may know, he started the Limpopo Corridor Initiative more than 10 years ago. And in this process, we have come to deal with him on both sides, in South Africa and in Mozambique, and not on a regional or municipality basis, but on a country basis. In terms of the fact that our project that we have had on the go in Mozambique is also linked to South Africa, and the projects in South Africa are also linked to all municipalities that we would like to implement in. So in terms of that specifically, we have had a long relationship. with regard to that, and he is included as a result of the capabilities that he and his team have with regard to interaction with Anova in Mozambique and in South Africa. Further to that as well, when I said earlier we would be dealing with a structure when we end up with the final special purpose vehicle for Kanaland and other future municipalities, our goal is to have at least a 51% shareholding. That also by including various other groups that we have been dealing with for many years in South Africa, in the Western Cape, in all provinces, and also in Kanaland specifically, with regard to cooperative structures that deal with communities and also the ways in which they can be included from a shareholding point of view. So from that final structure point of view, the diagram that Mr. Stevens alluded to and showed earlier is the ideal that we would still need to work towards for that final structure that is put into place once the final unsolicited bid process has been dealt with. So as to that, I would then request my colleague, Mr. De La Riviere, to perhaps deal with the technical questions and or perhaps add to what I've just mentioned on the BEE aspects. Thank you.
Chairperson, if you don't mind, I'll continue along that line. I think
Thank you.
I think the most important portions of it is to maybe get some clarity on exactly what the project is all about. Yes, there is a construction of a photovoltaic system. There's a big battery. There's a big storage facility. There's lots of technology that's built within the battery storage facility. And then there's smart distribution devices, which includes communication devices in collaboration with a meter and some other technology as well. So that's the major three drivers. The reason for the existence of the three portions was made very clear by Mr. Stevens. It is to be compliant with trying to adjudicate the high tariffs in the two peaks, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So we store off-peak energy that we get from Eskom on behalf of the municipality using the municipal equipment that we've invested into for the purpose of dispatching that energy in the morning between 6 and 8 in the mornings. And then we use the photovoltaic energy, which is generated by the municipality in collaboration with us, and we store that into the battery facility for the evening peak. The reason why we target the two peaks is cumulatively, if we reduce the energy utilization by municipalities in the peaks, then the cumulative effect is that we flatline the demand curve of Eskom. And that from the central government's perspective and from Eskom's perspective is worth an enormous amount of money. It will increase the capital efficiency of Eskom, which is the largest asset in this country, by 30%. So from an economic perspective, that made a lot of sense. That was the driving mathematics initially envisaged to make this project work. Right? So initially when we started defining the mathematical rules that we have to see if we can make feasibility was to define those rules and say that we cumulatively would wish to flatline the demand curve for Eskom. The reason for that is very simple. If Eskom's machines are working 100% 24/7, it works at the highest efficiency, lowest CO2 emissions and emission rates. So the cumulative value of that to the country is enormous. And secondly, you obviously reduce the use of very expensive technologies like the gas-fired, gas-operated turbines in Mossel Bay and in Ankerlig down in the Cape to generate energy on an emergency basis in peak at a tariff of R5.80 burning diesel. That, in fact, is costing this country 38 billion rand last year alone on peak energy generation using diesel-fired power stations. So attacking those problems as the major issues is the necessity for the three portions. One, a PV plant, which is installed in the local environment, the battery facility. By the way, one of the questionnaires was related to the technology and the base of the technology. The technology for this, from an intellectual property perspective, is owned by South Africa. right? So although we've used a lot of technology out of Russia and China, the thought processes and the integration of the software requirements in this specific deployment is owned by the South Africans, right? So it's going to make it a very plausible export product in the future. Some other questions related to the regulatory environment. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chairman. Let me address some of those because they're very important and very complex to understand. The PPP process per se is not the alleviation of the approach to NASA. NASA's approach, or not to be approached, is vested in the independent power producers. If you want to become an independent power producer, you need to get a license from NASA. That is the basis of it. Innovasure in this public-private partnership is not an independent power producer. I reiterate that, as I said earlier, the PPP is related to a financial structure between the municipality and the private entity, and from a technological perspective is the supply of technology to the municipality. We're not an independent power producer. And if you look at the Constitution is abundantly clear that a municipality has got the right to generate energy, and in fact, there's many of them still doing that. It's got the right to distribute, it's doing that currently. It's got the right to sell, which is doing that currently. And it's got the right to transmit, which is done in several places in the country. So it's got the right to do all the licenses that NASA currently issues. When NASA was created several years ago, they had a list of all the compliant municipalities having licenses. That list changed a little bit. But the long and the short is there's many municipalities that has got licenses to produce energy. They do not become an independent power producer. The government and the organ of state in the hands of the municipality has got the right to produce energy. Has got the right to distribute that energy, has got the right to sell that energy. So because Innovasure is not enacting that portion of the act, the PPP has got nothing to do with it. It's still us just investing onto the balance sheet of the municipality to enable the municipality to generate energy. And if you talk about local involvement, because the investments on the local municipality, it's obviously closer to the hands of the local individuals, and because we're hedging the PV panels and the energy of the PV panels directly into the peak energy at the evening peak, that reduces the future tariff, right? So it might not have a direct impact on the current tariffs. By the way, the tariffs being paid by Kannaland at the moment is what we call night tariffs. It's a time of use tariff structure by Eskom. The agreement was signed by Kannaland to distribute energy into their distribution network based on the time of use tariff, which is night tariff. Most of the other municipalities in this country are using the mega flex tariffs. It's not a big difference between the two, but it is time of use tariff. So, and they sell into single time use tariffs. So, and that's countrywide. The problem was, and always has been, is to try and correlate the time of use tariffs being paid by municipalities and then offsetting that against time of use tariffs on end users. The equipment can't do it. The meters don't meter time of use. The meters measures energy that's being distributed. So you're buying apples, you're selling pears, and it's something that's across the country in the same peril. So I think I've addressed those issues. Department of Energy.
I'm just going to ask that you just wrap up, please, because otherwise, members, we're just going to have a few minutes left to try and deal with some other admin.
All right. The approach to Department of Energy was to the extreme. In fact, in the latter part of 2018, when Mr. David Mashlobo was still the Minister of Energy, he appointed Innovasure to drive his energy in Dava in Johannesburg. I presented there as the driver, and the reason for that is because our involvement with the Department of Energy over the last 5 years has been extreme. The disclosure on all levels of Department of Energy has been done to the extreme. Same with NASA, same with CEF, the same with the Department of Finance, same with the DBSA, same with the National Treasury. So we've addressed all those issues. All the events and all the documents and all the paperwork between us and Kannaland has been disclosed to all the departments as well. I think that would have wrapped it up.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, I saw your hand. Did you want to add anything?
Yes, please, Honourable Chairperson. Just one point, 2 points that I missed earlier on Honourable van der Westhuizen's questions about whether we take over Eskom's role or not. In my view, it's actually to enhance Eskom's capacity. So it's not taking over their role. If we listen carefully from the presentation, I've said first phase, it's a certain capacity megawatt and what the municipality consume. But just as an add-on, and the second one, Honourable Chairperson, is Eskom levies us when we exceed certain consumption levels, which is actually very high, and it's difficult for our network to sort of control and maintain itself, that we stay within that. Even we have a power outage right now. And then also to Honourable Chairperson, the question that you've asked, when will this project kick off? Your exact one was, when will construction commence? I can give you the timeline as I understand it from the processes that I'm dealing with and have to mandate, is that there is the public comments and view process that's going to end on the 9th of July. And then there's another time of about 32 days for us to send this information, the comments and views, to National Treasury, and also to Provincial Treasury for their review. Also in terms of the draft agreement, etc. And then, so if one takes this timeline into account, then the unsolicited bid in the most favorable scenario could end by the 15th of August, and then the views and the comments we will have to entertain. So it leaves us perhaps with a month or two to conclude the document process and council to sign off the final documents. And then it's up to the investor really to say to us, when can they actually start or commence? In my view, and the information that I've got from the investors is that they are ready, more than ready. So in my opinion, I think that October month, in the most favorable scenario, could be a kickoff for commencement, if everything goes according to how we've envisaged and planned it in terms of the compliance that's applicable. Chairperson, with your permission, my CFO, Mr. Butler, is here just to answer those two questions about the liquidity ratios. I've asked Mr. Butler to give liquidity ratios for the past 2 years so that the committee could give an idea that there has been a slight improvement, and also in terms of the cost of electricity and what we pay to Eskom in terms of the time of use that was alluded to by Mr. Villiers. So thank you for the opportunity once again, Chairperson. So Mr. Butler will now.
Before Mr. Butler speaks, I would just like to find out, is it possible from members, because it is 3 minutes to 12 o'clock, is it possible for members to stay online for another 10 minutes or so, just so that we can get the two answers and then we can discuss administration going forward, because we are running out of time?
No, Chairperson, we can do that.
In order with
Okay.
me, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to stay online until 10 past 12. Mr. Butler, if you can please just wrap up quickly with those two answers, and so that we can discuss administration going forward as a committee. Thank you.
Okay, good day. I'm Roland Butler, CFO. Just to answer the question, at Kannaland, the current asset versus the current liability at present is not really positive. The norm, let me quickly say, for the other members is that the norm normally is 2 rand for every 1 liability. Now, even the National Treasury brought it down to 1.5. for assets per rand for every 1 rand of liability. In our case, at the present moment, it is 0.30, which means that there is some cash flow problems as such. But the reason for that is historical. The council actually inherited about 100 million of outstanding debts, and we actually brought it down to 35 million. So a lot of these money for the past 3-4 years was actually absorbed to actually pay for these creditors. Number one. The previous year, it was as low as 0.125. So there is a slight increase as we are actually succeeding to pay the previous outstanding creditors. That is the case or the scenario at present. We are actually in a fortunate position that we do have the capacity to undertake MIC and other grant capital projects with great success over the years, which means that as an institution, we are very focused to achieve these milestones. Anova, sure, as far as I'm concerned, from my professional view, is that it will help us a great lot, especially for the institutional capacity in the finance department. That will enhance the financial recovery plan, and I would actually positively say it will be a turnaround which can serve as a best practice module for the entire country. Is there some more questions?
No, Mr. Butler, I think if we have any questions, we will put them in writing to the municipality.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Stevens, thank you to Mr. Stevens and Mayor Barry and Speaker Teron and all your colleagues as well for being here today. Oh, there's Mr. Stevens. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for briefing us today. I think we can put the rest of our questions in writing, and we will await your documentation as well. And Mr. Stevens, it's not a sprint, it is a marathon. I don't think this will be the last time that our committee engages with the municipality on this front, because we are very passionate about these topics and these projects such as this. Thank you so much for being with us. Okay, you accidentally muted yourself, but I'm going to... Okay.
It was a good experience. Thank you very much. My mayor, can you allow my mayor just to say 1 or 2 words to you, please?
No problem. Thank you, Mayor Barry.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, now I just want to say thank you so much for this meeting. It's a long time that we are waiting for this meeting. And I know for sure in my heart that this meeting can change the whole Kanaland. And I love the project, and I will support the project, because this is the project who talk to each and everybody in Kanaland. The poor, the rich, the business. He talks to each and everybody, and agriculture. And I am just looking out, because especially in Zawa, we can do great stuff there, because we sit with land, but we can't use it because we haven't got the capacity, and we haven't got the power and the water. But if this project is successfully going through, then we can be secure of food security, and that will help the poor people very, very much, because the majority in Kanaland is very, very poor people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. I'll allow for municipality to leave now, and I know the department was also listening in, just so that they also welcome to leave the meeting now. We will discuss administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, please remain online. Bye. Okay. Members, I know that took quite a while in terms of the presentation, but given the amount of information and given the interest in the project, I felt that it was important to allow members to ask their questions and allow for the information to be posed to the committee. Members, I would like to make a suggestion. Given that we are running out of time, and I have already essentially run out of time, that we, one, put our resolutions in writing to the procedural officer, and that we then discuss those resolutions at the next meeting for approval, and that we take our annual activities report as well as the 2 minutes documents and also leave them for the next meeting. Members, any input on this regard? Honourable Klego?
Okay.
And then Honourable van der Westhuizen after Honourable Klego.
Thanks, Chairperson. You know, Chairperson, to be honest, we might be finding ourselves negative about the nitty-gritties around that project. But to be honest, it's a very profound kind of idea that wholeheartedly, if we can be, just for a change, be united in ensuring that there is something that is coming out of the Western Cape that will be able to deliver a successful kind of project that everybody else is blessing. I am not sure, I'm not a permanent member of this committee, but I would like to make a proposal. I'm not sure how your program might look like. I don't think we have done justice to the presentation of this kind. We still have got to hear and be able to debate and submit some kind of arrangement as far as to this whole process is concerned. If it is possible that we can be able to call that municipality again and do justice to their presentation, because of time, we cut it short. And we might not be able to do justice in terms of maybe in a finance committee or otherwise be able to articulate, but we would articulate in a situation whereby we're less informed. If it is possible that we can be able to have a full presentation from that municipality and be able to engage them and ask questions of clarity, and when we are clear, we can be able to resolve it. Because now there might be resolutions that are posed, but definitely they are not fully informed. They are very much ill-informed because the time was against us. So that municipality might be bringing something that could be of very much importance for the entire province, not just for that municipality. The issue of energy is not a situation of Canaland, Southern Cape or Western Cape. It's a national crisis whereby we're facing serious challenges about energy and how do we ensure that we produce food and everything else. So my proposal, Chairperson, is that if it is possible, that we can bring that municipality to finalize its presentation and be able to engage them going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Kneichel. Like I said previously, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Honourable van der Westhuizen, your input, you indicated, and then Honourable Nkondlo.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm just concerned that if we postpone our resolutions to the next meeting of this committee, that there may be quite a time lapse in addressing some of the issues that were raised today. And I was wondering whether we couldn't perhaps on a WhatsApp group or on the email group of the procedural officer, perhaps through a round robin process, get the resolutions minuted and actioned. That would be my proposal, that we try and see if we can't, without necessarily postponing until our next committee meeting, pose our questions and action steps.
Okay, so then suggestion from Honorable van der Westhuizen is that instead of first doing the email and then discussing at the next meeting, that we pose our resolutions and then in a round robin we agree to them. Honorable Nkondlo, your hand.
No, Chair, I thought both your proposal and Honorable van der Westhuizen can actually be merged, because I consider the time pressures, because we've got a 1 o'clock now for the ad hoc committee, some of us. So I would think I agree with the notion that says, you know, whilst it's fresh in our minds, let's be allowed to then make proposals on email or on WhatsApp. I think email would be much better. Then the committee coordinator can consolidate all of those, but we will then adopt, you know, because obviously we'll have a variety of proposals we will adopt in our next meeting, so that nobody loses whatever issue, you know, in terms of making those proposals. So for me, I wanted to join that kind of proposal, including questions we may have. And secondly, I think I agree with you. There is a lot, if one takes the presentation of today, it was very long, you know, and at some point, I think the municipality having some other issues which were not included, you know, so I agree with you. We can't believe that we've completed. Perhaps we may need, and that could be a conversation of the next meeting, because I do not believe, and I support Member Kleko, I do not believe, I think as a committee, we've got an issue with the concept, you know, which I think we've been raising about how do we ensure that there is energy security, especially for our municipalities. The issue is the how, and especially because also we've got challenges of the governance and financial position of the Kanaland. And I think those as factors need to be brought into the picture so that we ensure that we've got a viable project. So I would believe in that conversation, perhaps at another point, Chair, you can see in the programming, if some of the things that they indicated were still not complete, they can come back to update the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to rehash, but I think we're in agreement that we must combine the resolutions. Not resolutions, the process of completing the resolution. So I completely agree with Honourable Nkondlo and Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Okay, so can I put it like this? So we email our resolutions to the procedural officer. The reason I suggested that we discuss the resolutions at the next meeting is for Honourable Nkondlo mentioned some of us might have completely different resolutions, or there might be resolutions that can be combined, and it might be good for the committee to discuss that at the next meeting so that we can know what our way forward is. For example, we might even, if all of the due diligence of the municipality is completed and the project is off the ground, we might even in October, November, if safety and health and lockdown allows to even go and do an oversight over the commencement of the project, for example. And even before then, we might even need some more information from the municipality or from National Treasury or from provincial or whichever, the energy department, for example, that we might want to invite for extra information. So that is my suggestion at the moment.
Agreed.
Honourable Nkondlo? Okay, agreed from Honourable Mitchell. Honourable Nkondlo? Okay, agreed. Honourable Klego? Honourable van der Westhuizen?
We agree, Chairperson.
Agree.
Okay, everyone? Okay, perfect. Members, thank you so much. And then the rest of the administrative documents will then stand over to the next meeting. Thank you so much for your participation and goodbye.